We are here, you are there, with our land back.
Good evening. How are you?
BBC Radio Manchester.
I'm Alan Beswick. This is the Alan Beswick Late Night Phone-In. We are here. Me and the team are here until 1 o'clock in the morning. The team tonight, Linda's producing, Luke is taking your calls, and Will is making it all happen electronically. And I'm sitting here and just talking nonsense for 3 hours, but at least it's very nearly a living. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. The subject matter is for you to choose. We don't pick subjects. We don't pick topics. We just say, there you are. The lines are open. Get on with it. 0800 218 2255. And it's dead easy. I know. Gary Glitter's been dragged back to court. Well, indeed, to prison. Apparently for asking how he could search the dark web, which would be, and is, a breach of his licence. Now, we all know that he's a disgusting reptile, but who knew he was so stupid as to blatantly behave in such a way? Bizarre. But yesterday was a big day. Yes, I know it was St Patrick's Day for all sorts of reasons, but the reason it was a big day for me is because I put in my spuds. I planted my spuds. Because that's what you do on St Patrick's Day. It is the day for doing so. And I was telling a bloke, I was having a coffee, and he said, what have you been doing? I said, I've done my spuds. He said, why? I said, St Patrick's Day. You always do your spuds on St Patrick's Day. Now, this might be the wokest thing I've ever heard. He said, using the patron saint of Ireland as a gardening landmark diminishes the whole nation to a calendar day. Now, I think he was joking, but he didn't have a lot of smile about it. I mean, God bless us and save us. I've been planting my spuds on St Patrick's Day for donkey's years. Such is life. And an emu, yeah, we cover it all here, an emu at Blackpool Zoo is celebrating its 40th birthday. Well, celebrating, you know, it's probably just wandering about looking blue. But then it's an emu. Although it's not the same colour as Roddle's emu, is it? But it's probably bored out of its skull. It's been in jail for 40 years. If it was a human and murdered somebody, it'd have been free, walking up and down the prom for the past 2 decades. And as the NHS unions claim that they've beaten the government over their pay strikes, I have a question. And I don't want to rain on anybody's parade, be it the government's or indeed the NHS unions, but the government have now come up with an offer that is substantially, they say, better than what was on the table before, and it's going to cost more money. But is it? Well, I'm not getting into economics and all that highfalutin stuff. It's beyond me. I try not to get involved. It's just numbers and they go blah, 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 blah. But when you're on strike, your employer doesn't pay you. So the NHS, during the strike, must have saved an awful lot of money because they've not had to pay all those people who've not been going to work. And I'm just wondering whether the situation now is that they've saved so much money that they can afford to give a one-off payment to their employees and make it look like generosity. It's just a wonder. And still with employment rules and skedaddles and things, a security guard who suffers from severe dyslexia has won his case of discrimination. The hearing decided that he should not have been penalised for being late for work frequently. The reason he shouldn't have been penalised is because of his severe dyslexia, he had trouble organising his time. Now, I get that. Any decent society should make allowances for all those who endure a disability. We should, you know, we should make things so that people with a disability can enjoy them and use them in the same way, or at least as often and as easily as everybody else. You know, we have those buses now, don't we? When it pulls over the bus stop, it goes, and the platform goes down so that people, elderly people with not much of a stride, or people in a wheelchair, can get onto the bus very easily. Quite right too, exactly as it should be. But surely there are some jobs that just can't be done by some people. And I can't imagine that his colleagues who are sitting there after a 12-hour shift, bored out of their damn skull, are thinking, well, OK, he's late, but it's not his fault. Do you think, through no fault of his own, that a leaf can't get to work? What more can you ask at this strange hour of the day, or indeed of the evening? Time is on my side. It's worth it just for that squeaky bit. Yes, it is. 0800 218 2255. We're here till 1. You can talk about anything, and it matters not. How do, Keith?
Hello. Right, book from charity shop. Crap jobs. So I thought I'd ask you first, what crap jobs have you ever done or knew about?
Well, I'm sure there are lots of crap jobs, ones that involve work for a start. But I suppose the worst job I've ever done, which I only did for about 3 days, maybe a little longer, was milkman. And it was, the delivering the milk was fine, getting up at 3 o'clock in the morning and delivering milk, no problem at all. The problem was having to give up a Friday night to go around and be swore at by people, collecting the money, and I couldn't be doing with that. I'm not doing that. And they said, well, you have to do it, it's part of the job. I said, well, I don't want the job, then, and left. So there you are.
Yeah. Right, well, I'll tell you, now this isn't a job I've actually done, but I've seen it happen. Orange and lemon sorter in a toffee factory. It must be the most tedious thing imaginable, because you've got oranges and you've got lemons, and they're passing you on a conveyor belt, and if there's too many oranges or too many lemons, you've got to get them off the production line before they get bagged, so somebody
why is the factory got all this fruit?
Well, they're producing these toffees.
Oh, they're sweets. They're not oranges.
Sweets. Oh, I didn't know that.
Yeah, quite. How does the operator know which are orange and which are lemon? I mean, presumably they don't lick everyone as they go by. It takes ages.
Well, they're not colourblind, so that's a start, isn't it?
I don't know whether they're colourblind or not, but if the two products are of different colours, then yes, that's the answer. They're different colours. But
yes.
Well, I didn't know that.
Well,
I've had banana toffee, and it wasn't yellow. It was the same colour as toffee. And you said they were toffees. So toffee coloured.
Well, sorry. Right. Next rubbish job. Jigsaw number counter.
In other words, you mean the piece counter? Do you mean the pieces?
Yeah, the piece counter, yeah. I always say the wrong words somehow. Comes naturally.
There may be a reason. Well, why is it... Do they actually count them?
Yeah, this is in charity shop. I think it's a waste of time. So.
In a charity shop you would need to, because they've been used before. But a person in the shop or in the factory that manufactures them presumably doesn't count them. They'll know from the machine that stamps them out.
They're all there. But I've always thought that's a bit of a waste of time, because you only need to slip up by one piece and then you sell it, and there's a piece missing. You know.
But of course they never give you the number anyway. It says approximately, doesn't it?
No, on a jigsaw it says 500p, 1,000p.
Jigsaw puzzle. Jigsaws are cutting implement, and they don't use them for jigsaw puzzles anymore. But it says exactly 1,000 pieces, and it's 1,000. It's not approximate.
No, definitely not approximate. But anyway, going back to the crap jobs book, I've been looking at this crisp or pill flicker. And in this case, they have to, if they see a crisp that's not done right, flick it off the production line. If they see a pill, same carry on. And they have to flick them because the conveyor's going too fast to do anything else. And I think, oh dear me, what a job that must be.
Yeah, reminds me of that television programme when I was a kid about the horse.
Yeah, the horse. What's this about?
It was a cowboy film. It was called My Friend Flicker.
Oh, yes, of course.
Yeah.
Right, I'll get off now.
All right, then. Well, thank you very much for your endeavours. Have a good night. I'll do Ray.
Hi, Alan. I'd like to talk about that girl from Cumbria. You know, Ellie Williams. She apparently she's like lied about being sexually assaulted.
It's probably best that we don't talk about individuals in that manner. But thanks anyway. I'll do to another Ray.
I do, Alan.
I do.
Nice to talk to you.
And you.
Well, basically what it is, I wondered if you had any expertise on the common housefly, because we've been driving me crackers all week. Started last Sunday.
All right. Well, it's coming out time, isn't it? You know, it's like the Debs. They have a coming out day, and this is it. But there is a very. We used to say how you keep flies out your kitchen.
Yeah.
Keep a bucket of crap in the living room. I don't know whether it works, but that's what we used to say. No, apart from that, I've not. I mean, you could try lassoing them, but it's very difficult.
Well, I'm seeing spots on the wall, and I think they're a fly because I've been looking at them all week.
Yeah.
Driving me crackers.
And what?
See, I know nothing about them.
Well, you know, generally they're the result of maggots.
Yeah. Well, I'm puzzled where they've come from.
Well, I understand that, yeah. But they come from somewhere. They all come from somewhere. I don't know where they go in the winter. It's an often asked question, but they all come from somewhere. But where, I don't really know.
No. Just thought I'd check it. Just
you could get. Well, you can get fly papers and things like that, and they apparently like that stuff, and they go over to it and they get stuck on it, and then you just spend your day looking at what's basically a fly cemetery.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know. I mean, I can reassure you by saying it isn't evidence of dirt. It isn't evidence that you've got a mucky house and they've come there. They get them all over.
No. Well, this has been in this property for nearly 42 years.
Yeah.
Never had this trouble before.
And has anything changed?
puzzled.
Have you changed neighbours? Has a workplace opened, a restaurant or something of that ilk in your vicinity?
Well, changed neighbours that year ago.
A year ago. I mean, I don't know. I haven't the faintest idea, apart from those things that you can use to catch them, as it were, and kill them. You can get sprays and stuff like that, but they smell horrible.
Yeah. And this is the other puzzling part. I've been round with my nose, can't smell a thing. And so this is why I'm so confused. Because I thought flies went on rotting meat and stuff, don't know.
Well, that's where they go, yes. Well, any kind of vegetation, really, they rotting or not. I mean, they'll go on fresh food as well. They're not fussed.
Oh, right.
They're horrible.
Right.
They're absolutely horrible. Do you know what they do
Oh.
when they go on food?
Yeah.
They suck a little bit up, and they have to, in order to do that, they have to moisten it. So they basically spit on your dinner and then suck it up, bits of it, leaving, God alone knows what. Yeah, absolutely revolting. Yeah. But they're God's creatures, I'm told.
Oh, yeah. So I just leave the window ajar in the kitchen and they fly out in the time.
It may well be that you left the window ajar and they flew in.
Well, this is it. But I was so shocked last Sunday morning because I pulled the blind up and there was about 9 or 10 flies in the window, and I thought, where have you come from? The first reaction, because my doors and windows have been shut. So,
well, they're not very big, and they may well have been. Oh, this will sound horrible. They may well have been in your house in larva form right through the winter.
Right.
And they've just hatched out.
Warm, hot. Yeah. I wonder if that hot summer had something to do with it. I don't know.
Everything's possible. No. You're talking to the wrong man. I haven't the faintest idea.
I just thought I'd check you, in case you did know. And it put my mind at rest, because I'm worried it might escalate in the summer months, you see.
Well,
That's what I'm worried about.
that would be a concern. If anyone can assist, give us a ring. Ray's concerned about flies. Have a good night, Ray. Or best you can with all that buzzing. 0800 218 2255. How do Shafiq?
I'm okay, my friend. I like to talk about the Russia. Thousands of Russian people in my mother country in Bangladesh. Thousands of my mother country people in Bengali people in Russia. ICC issue warrants against the President Putin. That is good time. He's not bigger than 3 United Nations Secretary General Kofi Annan, Ban Ki-moon, Antonio Guterres. Putin not bigger than these 3 UN Secretary General. He's not bigger than Jesus Christ. He knew man everything. He need to be surrendered to ICC and he need to be designed for president. That is good time for him, and he is our friend, man. Our Prime Minister Tony Blair he knew Putin. Thank you, man. I know Putin. I seen in a Moscow airport in 1995, and one day I was in Moscow hotel. Thousands of Bengali in Moscow, man. Thank you, and thousands of Russian people in Bangladesh.
Right. How do Jenny?
Hi, Alan. Got off to a good start. If it's any help to Ron, I believe if you burn a citronella candle in the room, if you leave the window ajar, they don't like the smell of it, so they might just go out.
Oh, I can remember somebody telling me that. In fact,
Citronella.
yeah.
I've never tried it, but it's just something I've read. And the other thing was...
Years ago, we were in France, and you can buy these. They look like clay. You know, like the ring on an old-fashioned electric cooker, that sort of flat helix, as it were. They look like that. And I bought one, and it made not a blessed bit of difference. So I took it back and said, look, this is useless. It doesn't work. He said, well, you've not used it. I said, I haven't unpacked it. I put it in the kitchen. The flies paid no heed to it at all. He said, you're supposed to light it.
Oh.
And it gives off a smell.
I believe they use them a lot with camping. Keeps the gnats away.
So they say.
So they say, yeah.
Yeah.
And the other thing was, just with Keith, when I worked in the charity shop, we had a lady that was known as Jigsaw Joan. And she used to take all the jigsaws home, and she would have a fine time seeing if she could assemble them into a picture. And it occupied her time, and then if they worked, she brought them back. If they didn't, we binned them.
Good grief. Oh, there you go.
She was always known to us as Jigsaw Joan.
Jigsaw, and was that a name, or was that just the alliteration?
Well, she was Joan, but we gave her the name Jigsaw
Well,
Joan.
indeed, yeah. Excellent. Well, Jenny, thank you very much indeed. Jigsaw Joan and citronella candles. We're moving on apace. We're learning stuff all the time. I hope you made a note of that, Ray. You can get them from all sorts of places, hardware shops. Even, I mean, it's probably the wrong time of year yet, but you can get them from supermarkets as well. Citronella candles. They smell, as the name might imply, a bit lemony. Yeah, a bit like those sweets Keith was on about earlier. How do Kath?
Oh, I'll do, Alan. The guy who was just on about the flies.
Okay.
Yeah. They're not dangerous. They're called cluster flies, right? But they are really annoying. I had them, which is why I know about them. They lay their eggs outside in, like, earthworm. They feed on earthworm stuff, so they don't feed on meat, they don't bite you, they're not dangerous, but they're a pest. Because they get in your eyes through tiny little cracks. I just couldn't believe it. It was, honestly, like something off an horror movie. I'm a bit soft with things like that. I don't like anything like that. And they just all appeared, and I've lived in my house for like nearly 20 years and never seen anything like it in my life. They came, it was either last year or the year before. They've not been this year, thank goodness. The name weren't down. But all you can really do is they go to the light. They're very attractive, which is why that gentleman would have been finding them all on his window. That's where they go. Excuse me. And they kind of drop. They're very docile, and you can spot them because the wings are a bit more stuck out than your average fly. Yeah? You know, like the more, yeah. And I literally had hundreds and hundreds of them. And there'd be loads of them on the floor. It looked like somebody had been eating flipping Eccles cakes or something. They were absolutely everywhere.
And how did you get rid of them? Did they just go?
They just go. In the interim, I didn't use citronella because I thought, you know what, it's not going to bother them, all these, because they're very strange things. It's I also go to this church, right, and the vicar was plagued with them this year. They just look like currants all over the carpet, and you have to keep hoovering them up. It's absolutely grotesque, but as quick as they come, they go. They'll go when it really warms up properly.
Right.
Because they're coming in for the warmth and the light and the cold. Cluster flies.
Cluster flies? I've never heard of those. Right.
I hadn't until I got them.
Well, now I know why I don't get them.
Well, there's some sort of phenomenon. You can go years and years. Like I say, I've lived in my house nearly 28. That guy had lived in his house for a long while and never seen them. They just come. They come through cracks. You can't stop them. You can try and open your windows and spray them out the way and then hoover them up. But, it's grotesque, honestly. So he has my every sympathy. I've been there. Horrid. And hundreds are coming every day, and you think, where the hell are they coming from? And, you know, I'm not dirty or anything, and perhaps anything, I'm all CD. But yeah, they were coming. And even if you shut the doors, it doesn't make any difference because they'll get everywhere. But they were mainly, thank goodness, mainly confined to the downstairs area. So,
right.
Yeah, by a big camarade.
And it says here,
try the citronella thing.
I'd never heard of cluster flies, and I've just looked it up, and it says here they're attracted to light, as you said, and also even the artificial lights at night, they're not attracted to rubbish and other refuse.
No, they're not, or meat
like
or
so many
anything
types.
like that.
Yeah, they don't lay their eggs in food and things like that.
No, they lay them outside in earthworm burrows and that. Yeah.
How to get rid of it, says it. Insect spray, citronella fragrance wick, vacuum cleaning, sealing around all the doors. Well, that's going to be hard. Foggers.
No, you can't.
You need
that's
foggers.
extreme.
Yeah, you need a professional for that. Apparently,
you do.
Smoke bombs, same thing. Electric fly killers, them things that light up blue in the dark. And the good thing about them is you hear them burn. They touch it.
Oh, you used to see them in butchers, didn't you?
Yeah. Oh, and they go every time a fly touches it. Quite fun.
They do. It's a bit grotesque, isn't it, really?
Well,
because
flies,
there's so many. Alan, there are literally hundreds and hundreds of them. I'm not exaggerating, really. Seriously.
Well, I don't suppose you've made Ray feel any better, but at least he's got more information.
Well, yeah, and to be forearmed is to be forewarned, and they will go of their own accord. He won't be stuck with them. Honestly, they won't. He won't. They will go as soon as the weather warms up. Make sure he opens the windows and sprays them and hoovers them up and that, and if he's got the stomach for it. I didn't personally. I was a great big coward and ran away and stayed at my friend's house. But yeah, there were more every time I went back.
I once had an infestation of wasps and vacuumed all them up. And when you emptied the bag, half of them were still alive. It was terrifying.
Well, that was another thing I was just going to mention, because I got my little cordless dice knife on job to hoover up all of the corpses and things. And there were a few of them that kind of fell back out and they weren't quite gone and that. And it was really great. And I think it's probably scarred me for life, Alan. I think I need therapy.
You've not come to the right place for therapy, Kath, but good to hear from you. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. We learn as we go. How do, Andrew?
How do, Alan? What a call that was.
Indeed.
You see, millions and millions of years ago, there was a deflagration or whatever between arachnids and flies, you see. And they have a fantastic array of arachnids and eyes, you see. All you need is a bit of dog shit and a tree behind you. I've even got an actual, because there was an Aussie living in number one, there's obviously a daddy long leg spider, although they say the crane flag, the crane flag, the daddy long leg spiders in here, because I've got loads of them, because I've got a big massive tree, it's great. Also, top of the morning, whatever, St. Patrick is not just the patron saint of Ireland, you see. In West Africa, they have a root vegetable called gari. Or you have to sort of ferment it and take the peelings off, the root vegetable. And it's Nigeria. So as Mr. Megan Andrew would say, it's not just Ireland, it's Nigeria too.
Right. Oh, well, that's worth knowing. Thank you. How do, Malcolm?
How do, yes. I've just picked up that Donald Trump said he's going to be arrested in the coming week. That seems to be the big story in the BBC today. Curious matter.
Well, I don't know how curious it is. If they believe he needs to be investigated in relation to an alleged crime, then that's how they go about it, isn't it, really?
Yeah, it's a very unusual development for the leader of the opposition, effectively, to be arrested in a democracy.
Well, he's not the leader of the opposition. He's not even got a political position.
Well, I mean, in some senses, he is. In America, they don't formally have a leader of the opposition, do they?
Hence my comment that he's not the leader of the opposition.
Formally, but in effect, he is the leader of the opposition.
No, he's not the leader of the opposition.
In the parliamentary sense, I take your point, Alan. He's not. But in terms of his popularity,
he's not. Well, popularity. That's like saying. That's like saying Paul McCartney's the leader of the opposition, because he's very popular too. He's not even the leader of the Democratic Party.
You mean the Republican Party?
My apologies. I was right. He isn't the leader of the Democratic Party, but nor is he the leader of the...
He's not currently... He's trying to become the new, or should we say, the repeat performer.
Well, he's trying to be. He's trying to become the individual selected by the Republican Party to run for president. But he's not the leader of the party. So even if you stretch their system to almost breaking point and call the Republicans the opposition, which in essence they are, he's not the leader of it.
Not yet, he isn't.
Well, he's not at all. Well, I mean, I can't. Unlike you, I don't pretend to be able to predict the future. He's not the leader of the opposition. He has no.
Take your point. He is an opposition.
Well, it's not my point. It's the reality. It's not. I'm not offering you a point or an opinion. He's not the leader of the opposition. He's not at the minute got any kind of political stance other than his opinion and his following.
Yes. Which is considerable, isn't it? It has to be said.
His opinion is certainly considerable, and I believe he's got an awful lot of people following him, or did have, on various social medias, and he does appear to have a great deal of support. But he's not the leader of the opposition.
The interesting thing about that, talking about social media, was that he was deplatformed for a time on Twitter, which was one of his key methods of communication. But then the new leader of Twitter, Musk, decided he was going to reintroduce free speech into America, and has given Trump the opportunity to, tweet as he chooses.
Indeed. I'm afraid that's not what Twitter has said. They've not said he can tweet as he chooses. They're saying because I read it, and they said he's allowed back on, but he's got to obey the rules of Twitter and whatever other medium.
Of course, Musk, as now that Musk is in charge of Twitter, he can
Malcolm,
decide what those rules are.
Indeed, that is so, but he will have to obey. Not as he chooses, he'll have to obey whatever the rules are decided by the owner of the setup. So it can't tweet. Yeah. Well, I have to correct you. Well, he's not the leader of the opposition. He can't tweet as he pleases. You've got anything else you want to be adamant about and then discover that you're wrong?
Well, I mean, in some senses, you are indeed correct. But
no, not in some senses.
symbolic
I am
sense-
correct. It isn't a sort of gradient. I'm correct. You're wrong. I'm right.
Yeah, okay, I'll take your point. I think I look on him as a symbolic leader of the opposition. That's not quite the same, is it? Let's put it that way. He's a symbolic leader of the opposition.
And I'm not sure that he can be a symbolic leader, but never mind. We'll take it.
Well, until he becomes the new Republican candidate, which I would say he's still in with a pretty good chance of.
That may be so.
on
And until he becomes it, he's not it. So should we just move on? You tell us what you think about Trump and the possibility of his arrest.
Well, I mean, I just find it odd that at the point when the guy is... I mean, this is an old story. It's 5 years, apparently, since this story broke about him having giving some hush money to some woman who used to undress a certain amount. So isn't it odd kind of coincidence that just when he's trying to fire up his election campaign to stand to try to become the Republican candidate, that he should suddenly be, he believes being threatened with arrest? I find that, a bit sad, really. It shows the state of American democracy.
Well, if somebody alleges he's committed an offence, then those with the duty and the authority to investigate that offence are entitled to do so.
Yes, but why is it taking them so long, Alan? 5 years?
I have no idea.
Yeah, it's a curious matter, isn't it? And some might say
Well,
it was
it certainly caught your attention, but whether it's curious or not, I don't know.
Yeah. Anyway, I just hope that America can sort itself out rather than trying to meddle in other countries' affairs. It needs to get its own political system up to scratch, doesn't it? Anyway, that's just my views. I think since you have correctly identified a weakness within the views I was expressing, I think I better get off, hadn't I?
I think it was more of an inaccuracy than a weakness, but do have a good night. 0800 218 2255. Malcolm thinks that the suspected is the wrong word, but the reported potential arrest of Donald Trump on this week sometime, I think it's Tuesday, but anyway, it is politically motivated, which may or may not be true. I've no idea. Come to think of it, I don't really care. But if he has, well, isn't the story that he has denied that he had... It's a bit like Clinton, I did not have sexual relationships with that woman, and then we find out she kept the evidence of it on a dry cleaning. You remember her? And apparently Trump has been saying, no, I did nothing. And now somebody's saying, I think it might even be one of his lawyers, saying, well, did nothing, he paid her $100,000. A bit like our own dear Prince, Andrew, saying, no, I never did anything wrong. Nothing wrong at all. And then the next thing you know, a wad of money's been pumped out. Not suggesting for one moment that he's guilty of anything, other than having more money than sense, it would seem. Well, has Trump done anything naughty? I do not know. And it's America, so I don't care that much. 0800 218 2255. Do you? I guess is the question that matters the most. Do you care? In a forthcoming book, Donald Trump is said to claim that a number of national leaders, including Her Majesty the Queen, had, and I quote, kissed his ass. That's what he says. I was the leader of the free will. They kissed my ass. Or however his voice goes, it's rather sloppy. But he kissed his ass. And he probably thinks they kissed his ass, but they thought they were kissing his face, because apparently they're very, very similar. 0800 218 2255. And they both spout, well, you fill in the blank. Here's the Beatles. Stones. Seems like I'm picking all my own stuff tonight. Could end up with Leonard Cohen. Brace yourself. 0800 218 2255 is the only way to stop it. If you want to join us, you can. And whilst we're on the subject of America, which we kind of were, weren't we? There's a bit of a kerfuffle going on over the allegation, and it seems almost proven in that we can see film of it on our computers, but there's quite a kerfuffle about the allegation that a Russian fighter plane took down an American drone over the Black Sea. Now, I'm with the next man in believing that Russia is the baddie in what's going on in sort of Eastern Europe presently. Is it absolutely horrible what's going on? But I mean, if the Ruskies were buzzing us with drones in the skies near us, do you think we'd do anything about it, or we'd just say, oh well, never mind, it's not doing any harm, is it? You know, it's just going buzzers and flying around. We'd do something about it. Well, it's like when they talk about, oh, they've been listening in on our signals. Of course they have, just like we do on theirs. That's all part of the sort of spying bit, isn't it? And we do it all the time. There's a trick that most nations with an air force use, and what they do is they fly a plane, one of their planes, or a group of their planes in what you might call attack mode, towards the border of the country they're having a row with. And what they fly towards it as if they're attacking it. Everybody knows they're not attacking it. Everybody knows they're not going to bomb it. Indeed, most of the planes aren't even armed. And they go whizzing towards it. And what happens then is that the country they're going towards, be that ours or Russia or wherever, the country they're going towards, these jets, then has to scramble its defence, has to scramble all its intercept aircraft and everything else. And what they do, and they do it to us, we do it to them, I'm sure. What they do is they then listen in to all the frequencies, radio and everything else, and all the intercept they've got of email and all that gubbins, and they listen in, and they find out what the signals are for the nation that's feeling as if it might be under attack, what the signals are to launch their defence system. And so you now know how long their defence system will take to get into action, if you like. And they all do it. Why wouldn't you? And then when the plane will get towards their border, maybe even cross the border and zoom off and come home again. And everybody, ooh, and look at all the information we've got. And it's going on all the time. Why wouldn't it? That's how they keep us as safe as they think they can. So bringing down a drone, there's nobody in it. That's the whole point. You bring it down, you send it over here, right? It's not like when they shot down. You remember they shot down that U-2? What was the pilot's name? Gary Powers, was it? Years and years ago, they shot him down. Or they shot his plane down. He bailed out and they captured him. And then they did an exchange on that bridge in Germany. They did an exchange of a couple of Russian people or Russian acolytes in exchange for Gary Powers. I think it was Gary Powers. Or was that the $6 million man? Anyway, they shot down this spy plane, the U-2 spy plane, and all hell let loose for a while. But that's how it works. 0800 218 2255. Something you want to say? That's good. We want to hear it. Then again, you might not want to say it, in which case we'll enjoy that. The one that, well, I suppose I should have timed it and then I could have answered the question without asking it. Can you answer the question without asking it? I could have got the information without asking the question. That's what I was trying to say. But is that the one that when they had it on top of Pops, everyone was absolutely startled because it went on and on and on and on? Or was that the other one? God only knows. Can't remember now. Well, I suppose that's appropriate, isn't it? God only knows. 0800 218 2255 if you want to join us. That's good. How do, Dez?
Hello, Alan. Nice to hear your voice on the radio waves.
Okay.
You said it's a wide open chapel club and you can talk about anything.
Within the realms of the law, but yes.
yeah, and that is that's sort of significant to what I want to talk about. I'd like to talk about the respect
that rugby players have for their, not their boss, the referee.
Yeah, okay.
And I think if the likes of all them so-called sportsmen that play football had the same respect of the game for the referee, I would carry on watching football. But I gave up watching football back in the late 70s, early 80s, because of the way when there's a decision that they don't agree with, the football players, and the ref says, this is my decision, and the way they all just gather around them and start bullying. Well, to me, it looks like it's bullying them. But here we go today, like the Six Nations referee says, you dare, it's more, he doesn't say you dare talk to me, but that's what it boils down to. It's like, if you more or less argue with me, I'll send you to the sin bin. And I think if that was applied to more sports, it'd make sport a much better game.
Yeah, I mean, you're right in that there is a difference. And the problem is the rules about what the sanctions that the referee can put on a footballer on the field are less draconian, if you like, than on a rugby field. Because the rugby referee can do a number of things. I mean, if you argue if the ref awards a penalty and you argue with him, he can just walk 10 yards further, or 10 metres these days, further up the pitch.
Yeah,
and just say,
as you say, sanction, yeah.
So they have sanctions that aren't available in football. And why that is, I don't know. It's historic. I mean, rugby was, certainly rugby union until comparatively recently, was all amateur. So it's a different world when you're playing it for the fun of it. But it's just a different kind of discipline. I've refereed once in my life, and I disallowed a try that I had the knowledge I should have had. I would have awarded it. And the captain of the team I'd just disallowed the try of said, "Come on, lads, the referee's just trying to make a game of it," which was the worst insult I've ever had heaped upon me, because I got it totally wrong. But, you know, I'm not a trained referee, and you don't get many of those in lower order rugby. But it's just a different attitude to the whole thing.
It is a totally different attitude, but I'll just hold off for a minute and think, and the day that you refereed, I was guessing it wasn't in a recent game. Obviously,
no, it wasn't a recent game.
No, maybe the 80s?
Yeah, probably the 80s. Yeah, way back.
Yeah.
Rugby union at that time was all still amateur, and the way it worked was for the lower orders, such as where I played. The way it worked was that the home team provided the referee, and what you found frequently, as was the case for me,
a little bit of bias.
Well, yeah, but bias against the home side. That was the weird thing. That it was frequent that our referee, in other words, the referee for our team, would give things against us, which he wouldn't give against the others, in order to demonstrate that he's not being biased. When in fact he was, just like I was. You know, and then the team that I disallowed the try for, I played for the week before and the week after. But I mean, I don't know. I think if football had the 10-minute rule, you know, go and spend 10 minutes in the sin bin, I think the managers or coaches would require their players to stop getting that happening, because it creates a problem.
Make a much better game,
and it's a big step from you've just done something naughty, so I'm sending you out of the game for the rest of the day. That's a major. So if you like, you're giving the referee capital punishment, but nothing else.
Okay, yeah, I can see that, yeah.
So that's what I think is wrong. It's one of the things I dislike about football as well, in that the players have forgotten it's a game. That's all it is.
Well, exactly, that's it. And it should be a game to enjoy, as a spectacle to watch and enjoy. But the lack of respect that the footballers seem to have for the referee.
But I don't even understand. I don't understand the football referee giving out a yellow card. Don't make any bloody difference. He's still there. The player's still on the pitch. Now, okay, he's got to be careful, but he's still on the pitch. What sanction have they got? None.
None, until he gets another one.
And then they send him off. Whereas if he got one, like in football, yellow card, and off he walks, looking stupid, to sit on at the side. He's not even allowed to sit with his pals and get direction. He's got to sit somewhere else. They have special chairs for him. Sending off chairs, if you like. And off he goes. He has to sit there like a lunatic, watching the game. And you can just imagine what Alex Ferguson would say to a player that happened to.
Oh, God.
Can you imagine?
I couldn't repeat them words.
Well, quite, yes. So it's that kind of thing. So the managers know that the players can get away with a lot, and they play it that way. Why wouldn't they? Those are the rules. You play the game to the rules.
To me, it spoils the game. Like, as you just said there, like the difference that would have made in certain rugby matches, not so much today, but being one man down for 10 minutes towards the end of the 80 minutes, you know, that's a big risk.
Yeah. I don't know. They're different games. They operate differently. They always have. And I'm not a football fan, so it's not really my place to criticise it. But I think that is a serious problem.
I do.
With it.
Alan, I'm not a football fan. But I enjoy the rugby union especially, and I do have a like of the rugby union, but not as much. But I like to see a good game of football, but you just don't see it played fair and square. When they start rolling around on the pitch, when someone touches the elbow or something, it just spoils the game. For me,
I watched a little bit of the women's game recently. I mean, we're talking about the international teams, and I've watched a little bit of that, and it reminds me of the football of my childhood, if you like, when it was when the women seemed to play it in a slightly different spirit. But of course, then they're not all becoming millionaires at the moment. So it's a different kettle of fish.
That's the problem, maybe.
Did you read that in the paper the other week? There's a player, I don't know his name, and I read it twice to make sure I had read it, but he signed a 5-year, £50 million deal to wear some firm's boots.
Oh, no.
50 million quid to wear a pair of bloody boots.
I'd suddenly go and watch, I don't know, a game of snooker in my local pub or something. You know? It does, it sickens me, Alan, and it's been a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
And you, mate. And the truth is, of course, that millions and millions of people watch football every week. It's a massive entertainment. It's a massive business, and you know the fact that it has a lot of money passing through it matters, quite frankly, not a fig. What matters is the game itself, and I've never really enjoyed it much. How do Neil?
Oh, hi, Alan. Just talking about the rugby referees, just on that bit that I've got me to, I mean, the best one I've ever seen was Nigel Owens. And he took no messing, you know. He just told the captains over, and he said, "Right, tell you boys," he says, "Don't tell me how to referee. I don't tell you how to play rugby." And the best one we did when it was a throw-in, international, you know, and he went off. He said, "I'm straighter than that." That was so funny. I watched it. So, and the same one, with Keith right at the beginning. This is, and I got my own thing. What about the flippers and that? I think I've seen a thing on TV. They go and they call them poofers now, or winnies, because they go through at 600 miles. This is like crisps, 20 long, and they go through at 600 per minute, and they've got little air things, and anything that's not the right colour, whatever like that, it puts a bit of an air to it, and it blows it off. Yeah, so it's all automatic now, all computer controlled. So yeah.
Right.
Yeah, so
crisps are now sorted by a blowjob.
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, there's nothing wrong with that, like, you know. So.
No, I wasn't wrong with anything else.
So my main thing I was talking about, it was on Radio 4 yesterday morning, about 11 o'clock, and it's in the islands in Scotland somewhere. They've got like ponies. Gone on the streets, this, and they got about 1,000, you know, and then so many males, so many females, but for some reason they can't impregnate the females because of genetics or something's happened. But they know this one that's they found this one that can, and so they're going to take semen from it. And the lady on the Radio 4 was saying, I said, how are they going to get? Apparently they have a model. Yeah, you know, well, I don't feel so bad myself.
It's been going on for years. They do the same thing with bullocks.
Are they?
They have the semen man, the bullocks, the impregnator. He comes round with a whole jug of it, presumably in a funnel. I don't know.
Yeah, but
that's how they do it with racehorses.
But I mean, so they have a model as in a rubber pony, say? Yeah.
I presume they do. Yes. How attractive the male finds it, I don't know.
I know that. Yeah. So I'll finish out there, Alan. So you know about them things. So why do blow up dolls cost so much nowadays?
I don't know.
Because of inflation. I love you. Bye bye.
Have a good night. I do, Greenie.
Oh, hi, Alan.
Hiya.
I wonder if you could. I've spoken before about an American gentleman and he answered my question. And I wonder, it's Leonard Cohen, and he sang a beautiful song, and it's got, I can only tell you, I thought it said Circle of Flowers, but I don't think it was.
No,
I tried to download it, but no. Circle. It's got a circle that ends with that, and I'm sure it's Circle of Flowers or Roses. Do you know?
I don't recognise. I'm not an expert on Leonard Cohen. I think I've got everything he's ever recorded, but I don't recognise Circle of Flowers.
Oh, well, he mentions Willie Nelson in it because he was coughing. He said he was.
Oh, right. And if he's talking about, are you sure he's talking about Willie Nelson, or is it Hank Williams coughing?
Oh, it could be Hank Williams.
Yeah,
sorry.
that's called the. I think it's called the Tower of Song.
Oh, because he does say circle, doesn't he? In it.
I don't know what he says. I don't know all the things, but the song you're referring to, I mean, is Tower of Song by Leonard Cohen.
Oh,
that's the one where he said, what is it? It's something. I can't remember the exact line now, but it's something like Hank Williams. I can hear him coughing, or it's something weird.
Yeah.
Yeah. We'll play it. We'll play it a bit later on. The Tower of Song by Leonard Cohen,
and it's absolutely beautiful.
It is. It's a fabulous song.
Do you know what it reminds me of? The other one I like is MacArthur's Park.
Oh yeah, but that's not Cohen, of course. That's another one.
Oh, it's beautiful.
Yeah.
But I just thought maybe you could help me out with that because I've tried to download it and I thought, this is no good. There's nothing with circle on it.
No,
You
well, Tower of Song by Leonard Cohen, the line is I've just looked it up, is I said to Hank Williams, how lonely doesn't get. Hank Williams hasn't answered yet, but I hear him coughing all night long on 100 floors above me in the Tower of Song. And the whole idea is that the whole idea is that he's a songwriter. And the Tower of Song is the best are at the top, and the also rans are at the bottom, if you like. That's the concept that he's selling to you in the song.
Oh, got it. I will download that. And like I said, MacArthur's Park is another one. I think they're beautiful. The poetry, you know it. It's beautiful.
Isn't that the one where somebody left a cake out in the rain?
That's it. I think it's beautiful.
Yeah, people like it.
Yeah. Oh, that is great. Thank you, Alan.
All right, we'll play Tower of Song a bit later on by Leonard Cohen. But, of course, you're not allowed to record it off the radio because that's illegal.
No, I wouldn't do that.
I'm glad to hear it. But there you are. All right, Queenie, have a good night. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's good. Pick up your phone, have your song, have your say on whatever you wish. And an excuse to play Leonard Cohen. I can't ask for more than that in life, can I? I'll do Liam.
Hey, well, it's Liam. Want to talk about the City game, mate?
All right, run then.
I think they played absolutely well this evening against Burnley. I think that Haaland is a goal machine. He doesn't stop scoring, and I think Pep Guardiola has got the best squad going. And I think they could do real well this season, even in the FA Cup. And also, I think they could get to the final.
Right.
But I've heard this evening, Allan's supposed to be leaving, but we're not happy with him leaving, and I think we could bring in some new players who could help the team out.
Right, you have me at a loss. I don't know much about football and its teams and players, but City are doing very well at the moment. Did you say they've just been playing Burnley?
Yeah, we've just played Burnley in the FA Cup quarter final, and we've just beat Burnley 6-0.
Good Lord. That seems a little imbalanced, doesn't it, really?
And we've got a player called Allan, who's our top goal scorer with 42 goals, and he's our goal machine, and he's not stopped scoring. But absolutely, this season, City are playing really well, and Pep Guardiola is doing really well under him.
Right, well, we're good. That's good to see. But aren't both Manchester clubs doing quite well? They're both in the league, at least, the Premier thing. They're both near the top. In fact, isn't City top?
Yeah, and United have just got through into quarter-finals of the Europa League.
Could they face each other? Oh, right, in the Europa League, that's it. Right, that's a different competition.
Yeah, it is, yeah.
Are United still in the FA Cup or not?
Yeah, United are still in the FA Cup. They're playing at home tomorrow evening against Fulham in the next round.
So it's possible at this stage that Manchester United and Manchester City could play each other in the final.
Yeah, because at the moment you've got Brighton against Grimsby, Sheffield United against Blackburn, and United against Fulham, and City have just beat Burnley. So at this stage, United could get City in the final.
Well, right. That would be interesting. The City would be deserted for a start, but apart from that, it'd be interesting. Well, good to hear from you, Liam. Thank you. 0800 218 2255. How do Trevor?
Good evening, Alan. How are you doing?
I'm doing awfully well, thank you.
I'm delighted to hear it. Mind you always are, aren't you, really?
Indeed.
And you always like cryptic crossword clues.
Oh, I love them, as you well do. Go on.
Indeed. So here we go. Presses to get golf clubs, 5 letters.
Presses to get golf clubs?
5 letters.
No idea. Go on.
Irons.
Oh, for God's sake. Go on, right.
Hinted that little devil was untruthful. 7 letters.
Impish?
The first bit's right.
Mm-hmm.
Think about being untruthful.
How many letters?
7.
Yeah. Go on.
Implied.
Oh, implied. Hinted. Yes, of course. Right.
There we are.
There you go.
Natural world stories. I read this week that male fruit flies exposed to ozone pollution may struggle to recognise members of the opposite sex and show interest in other males instead.
Yeah, I read that and thought, well, who cares? Who wants fruit flies anyway?
Well, after your conversation this evening, a lot of people definitely don't want flies, fruit or otherwise.
I don't know whether this... In the 80s, I went to Australia, and when you land on the plane in Australia, before anyone's allowed off the plane, whatever class you're in, you're not allowed off the plane until the health people have been on, and they walk down the aisles of the plane spraying you.
Oh, right.
And it's to kill any fruit flies, and you're not allowed to take fruit across the state line in Australia.
Yes.
I mean,
Well,
they can
you've
take
got to
it.
protect your fruit.
Well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah,
Anyway, that was research conducted. Let's give them the credit. The Max Planck Institute for Chemical Ecology. So there we are. They've been busy.
I know his brother Sam used to have a disco.
I know his other brother, Thick As, eh?
Well, there's that, yeah, but no, he was a DJ. He had a disco.
Was he really?
Yeah,
Oh, goodness.
yeah.
Well, there we
remember
are.
that song? I left my heart in Sam Planck's disco.
Very good.
I know. Go on.
I shouldn't be surprised at you being very good with your quips, Alan. And a little bit of the natural world from me. I was little things entertain me. A little bit of natural world from me. I was at the supermarket today, and stacked outside were very large bags of wild bird food alongside garden products, manure, whatever, fertilizer. Very large bags of wild bird food. I've never seen, I must be honest. I mean, they I don't know what weight they were. It looked about 14 pounds worth. Enormous. Anyway, so some people obviously feed wild birds a lot. But I watched as 2 pigeons perched on the wild bird food bag, pecked through what I would describe as a fairly robust outer bag, and enjoyed a feed on the bird food. And I thought that was mildly entertaining, I thought.
Yes, I would have enjoyed that as well.
Odd story for you. Did you hear a real story? A man who is a huge fan of a particular supermarket has had his loyalty card tattooed on his arm, and apparently scans it twice a day, according to the story.
How very, very droll.
There's now to square as folk, as the saying goes. But there we are. So I've got that for you.
Thank you.
And the other thing I was going to witter on a bit about was the budget. Which I kind of noticed 2 or 3 things. That some good news, depending on which, as it were, category of taxpayer you're in. Childcare for all working parents beginning at the age of 9 months. Although those who actually provide childcare say there isn't enough capacity, and that the Chancellor responds to that by saying he's doing it in stages so the capacity will build up. But that will mean apparently that it won't be fully implemented till autumn 2025, which presumably will be a year or so after the next election. So
you would hope that there's a graph somewhere that will show that it is progressing towards that. So that when we get to the election, he won't be able to say, "Yeah, well, it's not happened yet, but it'll happen next Tuesday after the election on Thursday." So one would hope it is. It's going to progress towards that, but others will be the judge of it when the time comes.
Well, quite. The second point I picked up on was good news for well-off people who have a lot of money to put into pension pots, because the Chancellor abolished the lifetime allowance, which was a relatively large one anyway. I think it was about £1 million. He's abolished that figure and also increased the amount people can put into pension pots from 40,000 a year to 60,000 a year before being taxed. And if it's somebody who is in extremely well-paid employment or business or whatever, they could build up between 2 and 3 million quid in their pension pots, and the lack of tax, I'm sure, will be welcomed by that relatively small group of people. Is what I would say about that.
The trouble is, we have this. It's difficult, and I don't have a view on either way, but I know an awful lot of senior people, and particularly consultants, are getting referred to a lot in the discussion around this. Yeah. And the problem is that a person gets to a certain level, and he or she, if they continue to work, end up getting a pay cut, basically, because they've
used up their allowance.
They've used up their allowance, so they don't put any more into the pension, but neither does their employer. I was talking many years ago. I was talking to the chief executive. I was interviewing him of Manchester Airport, and they just introduced a voluntary pension scheme for their employees, and he was astounded at how few of their employees decided to take it up, because he said they're turning down a pay rise. Because, they have to put 5% into the pension, 5% of their wages, so they actually have less money, less cash. But we top it up. We put 5%. Actually, I think it might have been 10, but we put 5% in as well. So they're getting a pay rise, if you like. They're getting free money off their employer. And, of course, when you get to the limit, which I don't suppose you do as a truck driver on the airport, but when you get to the limit, you can no longer add to your pension, but your employer doesn't either, so you're effectively getting a pay cut.
Yes.
And so they say, why should I carry on doing the job I'm doing for less money? And so it is a dilemma, and I know it's a dilemma of rich people, but, if you're lying there waiting to have your hip replaced and the bloke says, well, I'm going home because I'm having to take a pay cut.
Yeah, as always, you put a balanced argument, and the final point on the budget, and my final point tonight, I was going to say, meanwhile, for the rest of us, those who don't have 60 grand to put into pension pots, meanwhile, for the rest of us, income tax thresholds will be frozen for another 5 years, meaning that over 3 million people on very low incomes will become taxpayers for the first time, new taxpayers, if you will, and more than 2 million people will find themselves moving into the higher 40p rate. And, the result of all that, according to the IFS, the Institute for Fiscal Studies and others, is that it'll be the highest tax burden I think since the Second World War, certainly for the last 50 years or so, and a bit ironic to some of us, certainly to me, I shouldn't speak for anybody else really, as you often say, bit ironic it seems to me that what is often described by themselves as the low taxation party is raising the tax burden on ordinary people, as it were, to its highest level for a very long time.
Yeah, I mean, it is, one for the rich, one for the poor, simultaneously, you might say.
You might. Thanks, Alan.
Have a good one. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. Pick up your phone, have your say. You may talk about anything. And we have another Trevor. How do, Trevor?
Hi, Alan. Well, when it comes to taxes, I mean, you have to do what Benjamin Franklin said and invest in your agriculture, really. If it's going to be death and taxes. So, and also, I'd like to talk about aeroplanes, really.
Okay.
I love aeroplanes. I've got some observer boots. I mean, my granddad had one from the 1960s, and I got the 1 year after that. But I like things like the MiG-29, the Foxbat, and the DC-3, the Douglas one. That's a good plane too, and the Meteor, and the Electric Lightning. That's a fantastic plane. They got one of those in Manchester Industrial Museum, in Science and Industry Museum.
Well, it's in the Transport Museum. That's part of it. But
yeah, it's fantastic. I was bigger than I thought when I first saw it. I mean, when I saw the getting onto space, when I was looking at the Apollo capsule in Science Museum in London, it's smaller than I thought. I don't know, it's tiny. Did it?
You go up there in that. There's three of you in it, and you think, God, you'll have to be friendly, won't you? Dear God, I mean, it's big, but for what it is, it's tiny.
It is, yeah. But when you compare that to something like the helicopter, what do they call it, a Sea King helicopter, or something like that, they're just enormous, isn't it? A Sea King that's in the Transport Museum there in Manchester.
Well, it might be. Yeah.
Yeah, that is enormous.
It is, but of course, when you're sending something to space, every pound weight is it costs millions to get that pound weight up there. So you make it as small as you can.
Do you know, I was watching. I get National Geographic magazine regularly because my mum orders it for me. I get it at Christmas. She gets it for me every year, and they have a photograph in there of some mangrove swamps in Florida, and just over the top, they've got one of the SpaceX satellites being sent off, and they were saying that it's become so regular now that it's not even thought as a big event sending satellites into space. It's become so everyday and humdrum in many ways.
Nobody turns out for those now, not like Sputnik.
No.
Remember Sputnik all those years ago?
Yeah. Well, I don't remember it, Alan. No, but I mean, I've heard of it, obviously.
Well, I do. There was even a band. There was even a band that came out with a record. And it might have been Telstar that they were talking about. Television. Telstar was the first television satellite.
Well, I do know that I get a magazine from the America, and it has all about the energy and the various armaments they're using in ships these days, and they talk about this department of the American government, and it was one of the first to put weather satellites in space, and that. I think it's the Office of Naval Research. I think they were the first to put American satellites in orbit for space. Well, of course, the RAND organisation were the first to actually think of it. Well, no, Arthur C. Clarke was first to think of it, but was the first to put satellites in space.
Were they?
They had the idea of it a long time before it was actually became.
But to say that they were first to do it, we're not the nations. Did not they do it first?
Yeah, obviously. I mean, Russia obviously was first to do it. Yes, definitely. But they had the idea of space satellites and telecommunications, that kind of stuff, for about the 1940s. I mean, because they had the ARPANET, the computer that was around the time of Baby in Manchester. The Americans had ARPANET, didn't they? So, you know.
Well, I don't know. Sputnik, that was the first one, wasn't it? That was the first. Sputnik 1 was the first artificial satellite. I'm just looking at it now. I didn't remember it. And that was the Russian one, Sputnik 1.
Well, I remember Lineker, but I can't remember the name of the monkey. I can remember the dog called Lineker, and I can remember Tereshkova, and I can, Elena Tereshkova, the first woman in space, and Yuri Gagarin, and Sarkov, is he called? Was he on Vostok 1?
I don't know.
Not Vostok. Vostok 1 was Yuri Gagarin's spaceship.
I'll take your word for it. I have no idea.
Yeah. Soyuz. Soyuz means dawn. Vostok means east.
Right. Well, I'll have to take your word for that as well. My Russian is minuscule.
Oh, that's years looking at manned spaceflight, the Observer book, because if you look at Shepard, it was Alan Shepard, the first American in space, and Grissom, who died on the Apollo platform with his people. So, it's some great history there, and it's getting even better now. They're talking about a nuclear plant now, aren't they, Rolls-Royce, for the moon? So
yeah, they've apparently got the contract to build one to put on the moon. Yeah. That's forward planning, isn't it?
Yeah.
Good on you, Trevor. Well, good to hear from you. Sputnik 1, by the way, I've just read about it. I don't know how true this is. It was launched into low Earth orbit by the Soviet Union, on the 4th of October, 1957. I was only 9, and it was part of the Soviet space program. And it sent a radio signal back to Earth for 3 weeks before the batteries ran out. I didn't know that last bit. Deary me. But presumably it's still up there. Where would it be? Oh, no, apparently, no, I've just looked. It burned up on the 4th, in other words, on its way back in. It burned up on the 4th of January 1958, whilst re-entering Earth's atmosphere after being in orbit for 3 months, when it completed 1,440 orbits and a distance travelled of 43 million miles. Wow. The space numbers are just ludicrously big, aren't they? How do, Ted?
All right, Alan, kid, just to say, hibernation, Alan, hibernation.
Do you mean hibernation, where creatures go to sleep for the winter?
Yeah, creatures go to sleep, so do trees, flowers, even humans, because Lazarus in the Bible was asleep for months or weeks or whatever, and Jesus woke him up, they said. But it even happens in humans.
I think the Bible suggests that Jesus brought Lazarus back from the dead. The Bible suggests that was Jesus' first miracle of bringing somebody back from the dead.
Well, Lazarus could have been in hibernation.
Well, he could have been, but I'm just saying that when you said the Bible says he was hibernating, no, the Bible says he was dead, and Jesus brought him back to life as a miracle.
Well, even in America during the Civil War, people dug the graves of the dead shoulders up, and they found scratches on top of the coffin lid underneath where the person was. He buried dead people.
Well, perhaps they weren't dead.
He buried live people.
If they buried people believing them to be dead, and they weren't dead, then when they do come round, they're going to be less than pleased and try to get out. I know I would.
Well, if that happened in America, that must happen right around the world, mustn't it?
It must, yeah. I mean, there is. I don't know how much there is, but there used to be a facility whereby a person would put into their will that before their funeral, their wrists must be slashed, so that if they're not really dead, but they've been declared dead and buried, then they will be killed by the slashing of the wrist.
Well, that's like open them up and open the body up and all that, and cut it all and all that. And that's
Well,
what
it's not
saying,
opening
isn't
it, it's just slashing the wrist. It's not opening it up. But there were people, apparently, who had things like that put into their will because, of course, the science of deciding whether somebody's alive or dead a long, long time ago was not as efficient and, one hopes, accurate as it is today.
Like you were a psychiatric nurse, weren't you, Alan?
I was, yes.
Now, have you heard of lobotomy?
Yes.
Where they put a stick through the eye, through the hole at the back of the eye.
No, that's not what they do. That's not what they do. That's not what they do.
That's what they do. That's true.
No, that's not what they do. But you know better than I trained.
What do you believe?
Pardon?
What do you believe?
I don't know what you mean. I don't know what you mean by what do I believe.
That practice does happen.
Okay, well, you believe it happens. I believe it doesn't. Shall we agree to differ? Have a good night. How do Glenn?
Hello?
Hello, Glenn.
Hey, how you again, fella?
I'm very well, thank
you. What's happening to all these cuts that BBC local radio?
Well, BBC local radio programmes will be fewer throughout the land than they are presently.
And what's happening to work? Are you retiring? Is that right?
My contract ends at the end of May, and I have no idea what happens after that, but that happens every year. So I'm not retiring. I will either be dumped or carry on. I don't know which, but it won't.
So what's happening to John Gilmour and Brett Davison and Gary Scott and all the others like Graham Live and Sharon? What?
Well, I even if I knew, and I don't, even if I knew, I couldn't answer that question because that's a question that should be addressed to them, not me.
Have you heard of Stephen Law, Alan? You know Stephen Law?
No.
He's a gardening centre for Lancashire.
Right.
Have you heard of him?
No.
Well, Stephen Law's a gardening centre in Lancashire. He comes to the supermarket where I work. I've known him for a good few years now. He does the shopping at the supermarket. I'm not thinking them. Tesco.
Good night. You said you wouldn't. You said you wouldn't say the name, and then you said it. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us? You can pick up your phone and have you say. I promised you the Tower of Song by Leonard Cohen. Tidings. I wish not to spoil your night, but apparently there is a shortage of bell ringers for King Charles's coronation in May. I think it will be. So, going to be a shortage of bell ringers. So the coronation, unless you get more ringers, won't be a load of old bells, which is probably just as well. 0800 218 2255 if you wish to join us. How do Gwyn?
Hello, mate. Right, the Gary Lineker situation, right? BBC, years ago, you got like Bruce Forsyth, top stars on the BBC. You got like Terry Hogan, top stars on the BBC. And they were stars. They got paid multi-million pounds to do their job, and just, well, you know, Bruce done his thing, and then Terry Hogan did his thing, and now Gary Lineker is doing his thing, but he's got an opinion, which is, you know, what we've heard over the past couple of weeks. He thinks he's got a right to state that he's allowed to spout out stuff about other things other than the sport.
Well, the thing is, there's a difference between the two individuals you referred to and now.
Well, three. Yeah, sorry.
And now being the third. In the days of Bruce Forsyth all those years ago, and to a large extent Terry Wogan, there was no social media, so they didn't have the facility to pass their comments on about things. These days, social media is enormous, and in many ways, in many areas, has got bigger audiences than television and radio put together. So, and people are free to do it. You know, the likes of Lineker, and I don't do it, but I could have a website or whatever they call it. I could do Twitter or all those. Well, it would if I did it, yeah. But I can't be asked, to be honest, and I don't know why they can be bothered, but they make a lot of money from it. And if you say that a person who works as an employee of the BBC is bound by certain rules, there are other people who work with the BBC, get paid for by the and they are not employees. So it's very hard to say that the BBC should have complete control over them when they don't have any obligation to them. Somebody just asked me whether I was going to retire, and I said, no, I'm not going to retire. But that has no bearing. Well, yes. Well, no, they don't have to sack me because I'm on a fixed-term contract. I've been on a fixed-term contract at the BBC for 30-odd years, 37, I think it is. And when that contract expires, they can just say, thanks. And I've got no comeback for that, and nor should I have. I'm not complaining. I love it. But I'm not an employee in that sense. So should the BBC be able to say to somebody who they merely pay to do a job, a specific job, that you must not speak to anybody else? I mean, does that, if you say, well, yes, they should, do they have the same control over their window cleaner?
Well, the problem is, like, Alan, is like the fee apparently next year is going up to £173. And people, there was a lady in somewhere in Newcastle or whatever who'd been harassed for 14 years, who died, who's been harassed by the BBC licence fee people to pay a TV licence. She's not alive, you know, and died.
Well, she's not harassed much if she's dead, but I know what you mean. It's hard to harass a corpse, but I know what you mean. The people who are still around get, you might say, harassed.
So for 14 years, we get letters for the post, and the mother has been stressed out with it all, constantly asking for the licence fee, as if she was some kind of criminal when she'd been dead for 14 years. But like the likes of Lineker, okay.
But that issue is unrelated. That's about how the BBC is funded for the time being, at least. But what it does as an employer, do you think the licence fee means that a person who does anything for the BBC is not allowed to have an opinion outside of the BBC?
Well, like I said before, the stars like Terry Wogan, who done this thing, it's just Wogan, and he done this thing, and then we had wonderful stars like Larry Gayson, etc., etc. And they were stars.
But Gwyn, Lineker's a star. Lineker's a star.
But the most important thing, like you just said, is social media.
Yes.
Now, apparently he had a thing with the BBC that he was allowed to but as soon as last week we had no sport, match of the day last week, nothing. We had this 20-minute thing, and everyone walked out in support. Was it support? Was it for support for the BBC and what he was saying, or was it support for the immigration things that he was saying? We don't know to this day.
We would have to ask those people to get the answer to that question. But the declared reason for those people saying we're not turning in is the declared reason. What their real reason is, it may be different, I don't know, but the declared reason of some of them was, we believe the BBC hasn't treated Lineker fairly. Not an opinion. I don't care either way. I don't care if he never utters another word on the telly. I can't be stuffed. It's football. But you have to start thinking, what does the BBC have the right to require the people it gives money to? And the easiest way to measure whether they have the right to control a person's life when they're not working for the BBC at that moment is, should they have the right to say to their window cleaner, you must not discuss politics in the pub because you're a window cleaner at the BBC?
Yeah, but asking the very question, like you just said,
they're an employee. The BBC's giving them money the same way they're giving Lineker money and all those others that they give money, and me.
So in the past, you trying to say in the past, Terry Wogan could have said like blankety blank. Oh, by the way, we should bring the
No. Whoa. Just a sec. No, he couldn't say it on blankety blank, just like Lineker couldn't say it on Match of the Day. Lineker didn't say anything. Well, Lineker didn't say anything political whilst he was working. At the moment, he was working for the BBC. He did it in his own time somewhere else. Now,
yeah, but if you connect Gary Lineker with his multi-million-pound bit and his tweets, should he have in the first place a social media account? Well, he's earning that money.
Well,
I mean, would Terry Wogan have had it in the past?
We can't answer what Terry Wogan or all those other people would have done had it existed.
They probably wouldn't have, because they were professional. They were professionals.
Gwyn, to say they were professional is fine. You are absolutely correct. They were professional. Doing his job, Lineker is also very professional. I find it quite annoying. He's also very professional. But the only measure you're doing at the moment, you're saying Wogan was very professional. You don't know whether Wogan said something political away from the BBC. You've no idea.
He never done it.
Well, you don't know that.
Has.
You don't know that. You know that Lineker has. You don't know that Wogan hasn't.
But I always knew Wogan was like there was Terry Wogan. I always seen Terry Wogan as a star and Banksy Blank and all this stuff on this show from Wogan for the early days.
Because that's all that was available to you.
Terry Wogan was Terry Wogan. He's like Michael Cove was Michael Cove. And
the Elephant Man's the Elephant Man. You're just saying stupid and you're just saying that person's name is that person. That person's name is that person. Terry Wogan Terry Wogan didn't have the facility to do what Lineker did. That
I'm
facility
not talking about Terry Wogan
did not
general,
exist.
like you just said. Terry, let's before we get cut off. Gary Lineker is like basically a sportsman. He gets paid £1.5 million a year or whatever he gets paid, and he's a damn good guy. I'm not slagging the guy off because his pundits are great. I mean, to watch Gary, and he's a professional. The problem is he should not have the opinion. Aside from that,
why shouldn't he?
Because he took everyone off the air. Because
he didn't. He didn't.
Last week,
he didn't.
Took everyone off the air.
He didn't.
Everyone decided to say, "Oh, Gary was right."
He didn't. He didn't take them off the air. First of all, he didn't take himself off air. He was suspended, and that wasn't his decision. The other people made their own decision to not perform. So he didn't take them off air. They chose not to be on air.
Yeah, but he knew very well he was going to be taken off the air for those comments.
Well, he didn't know that he was going to be taken off the air.
Of course he did.
Okay, then he's a liar and a cheat. Good night. He stated categorically that he didn't think he'd done anything wrong. How do, Adrian?
You're right, Alan.
Yeah, fine, thanks.
You were on earlier about bell ringing and being buried alive. Well, I've got some of the buried alive, yes.
Oh, I see.
That guy were on.
Yes, we were talking about bell ringing as in terms of bell ringers for King Charles's coronation, and we also talked about people buried alive, yes.
Yeah. Well, I've got some that links the two, actually. I don't know if you've ever heard, but in Victorian times, I think it was anyway, it might have been a bit further beyond Georgian or whatever, but they used to have like a cable, to the coffin, and then like on the headstone, they were and they had crypt keepers, headquarters, whatever, and they had like a cable and they could pull it, and it'd set the bells off, so the attendant of the cemetery could go around and think, hey, we've buried alive one here.
Yes. I've heard of that before.
I think you can. I think there's still some kicking about somewhere. I don't know where it is. It'll be somewhere in England anyway.
People get buried. They don't know it. People get buried with their mobile phone.
Yeah, but I don't know if you'll get any signal down.
Well, they will. We've yet to find out, haven't we? Really?
Oh God.
But I've heard before of stories of people having a button, if you like, in their coffin with them in the event that they're buried alive. They can ring it. But can you imagine if you're walking across a graveyard at 1 o'clock in the morning, you hear a bell ringing? What are you going to do?
Well, get them up, innit?
or just run like hell and hope it's not what it might be.
Yeah.
Me and a lad called Alan O'Brien, when we were on leave from the army, we were in a pub on one side of the Warrington Cemetery, and we had to walk home because you don't pay for taxis when you're a squaddy. We had to walk home. It's quite a long way, so we took a short cut across the graveyard. And as we were climbing over the gate in Manchester Road, this chap looked at us, and we said, "It's all right, mate, we're all going home for Christmas." And he shot off down the road like he'd been fired out of a cannon. I don't think he thought we were escaping. I just thought he thought we were barney and we're getting out of the way. But I have heard of people having devices in their coffin.
I mean, that guy that did get buried alive once, so he didn't want it happening again, so he had it, little like a Christmas tree, didn't he? Had buzzers everywhere. So I'm not surprised. But, I mean, people have still been, only last few years, people have been waking up in morgues. They thought they'd died and they'd just been, like that guy said, kind of like hibernating in a way, but, yeah, they'd been put in the morgue and then they'd woken up in there, so... Yeah, but that's where the vampire myth comes from.
I suppose it must. I've just looked it up because I do these things. The security coffin, designed by Dr. Johann Gottfried Taberger in 1829, alerted a cemetery night watchman by a bell which was activated by a rope connected to strings attached to the hands, feet and head of the corpse. The bell housing prevented the alarm from sounding by wind or birds landing on it. So they had the bell protected so that it didn't just ring because it was windy. So they had that protected, and then they had this string that went to the various bits of the anatomy, whichever bit comes alive first, I suppose. How very strange.
People can... people can, that when they get... Is it air, trapped in the lungs or something, and then something happens to it after death, and then they sit bolt upright? That happens a lot, apparently.
That's not unusual, yeah.
No.
Incidentally, in answer to the question on Wikipedia, did the coffin bells ever save anybody? The answer comes: there are no documented cases of anybody being saved by a safety coffin. So there you are.
I mean, people have been found. They've gone crazy, haven't they? When they have been, when they have found them, eventually they've gone. I imagine that House of Usher were like that, wasn't it? I think. Didn't that have that as a part?
I don't know whether that was the story of the House of Usher. I did see the play, but it was many, many years ago. But there's a book, and I read it as a kid. And you know how when they bury people abroad, they do it in like a filing cabinet, and they put them in the filing cabinet, just like in a morgue these days. But they put them in the filing cabinet, and then a few years later, I don't know what the period is, a few years later, they open the filing cabinet and they take the bones out of the coffin and they put the bones in a box or an urn or something, and they put them elsewhere in the graveyard so that they can still use the filing cabinet for somebody else. And so there are those, and I don't think anybody's ever been found alive, but I think it was Edgar Allan Poe that wrote a story about people being alive and waking up and getting out of their coffins on the other side, as it were, of this filing cabinet and going crazy, But death is something that's bothered us for a long time, isn't it? Really.
Yeah, well, it's not dead. Well, it's not. They're not dead. That's the old problem in the first place, isn't it?
Yes, the fear of not being dead. You spend all your life being afraid of being dead, and then when you get close to death, you start thinking, I'm starting to get afraid of being alive after they've decided I'm dead. Well, there you go. Yeah. But nobody's ever been saved, apparently, by a security coffin.
No, they used to stick. I mean, that's when they used to have I thought they were vampires. They used to stake and nail them into the coffin, didn't they? With the wooden stakes. That's what that were about.
Yeah. I don't really need to nail them in, really, do you? Because there's 6 foot of soil on top of them. They're not going to get out.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think people have clawed their way out, haven't they? I mean, people have strong people, and they've been. I mean, what is it? Hysterical strength when you're crazy. The people have clawed their way out. But yeah, broke through it. But I mean, didn't someone have rings on or something? I can't remember what it was. They had something on them. I think they had like rings or something, and they used that to punch through the coffin and then dig their way out. So, but yeah, that mustn't have been a lot of fun.
No.
But yeah.
Sounds
scary, isn't it?
Yeah, well, yeah, I've not heard that story, but you never know. You read things in a novel, and then 10 years later, you think, oh, that happened. You're not quite.
Yeah, it's all.
Oh, made it work. But good on you, Adrian. You've got everybody terrified now, so that's always a good thing. Good on you. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. How do, Tom?
Good morning, Alan.
Morning.
So same morning. Seeing as we're seem to be on the topic of the dead, strangely enough, I thought how strange of all people who's lately passed away, the lady who conned God knows how much money out of hundreds, thousands of people in a lifetime, Mystic Meg, has yet, as far as we know, to make contact with, what's now the living, this side, to say she's now on the other side, rest us all. I thought, how strange. I've never thought of all people. Mystic Meg, now she's passed, would have made contact with this side, if you will.
Harry Houdini, the great escape artist, he declared that if there is life after death, I will come back. I will escape the clutches of death and come back. And I am the best escapologist on the planet ever. And if anyone can come back, I can. And he's not come back yet. And a mate of mine wrote a song telling that story, and the chorus was, Harry, oh Harry, please take a bow. Harry Houdini, you can come down now. But he never did. But I don't know whether... Go on.
Yeah, I believe I read years ago, that many years ago, decades ago, I think it might have been the 1950s, 60s, that the American government put up, I think it was like a $10 million reward. It might have been more, to anybody in the world who could provide evidence that they could contact the other side. And I believe that reward still stands to this day, and it's yet to be claimed.
Yeah, well, on account of nobody's ever going to do it, because it can't be done, but yeah.
Exactly, yeah. I just think, I despise people who make money out of, and I feel so sad for people who are taken in by these mediums who prey on the vulnerable, who could stand there in a theatre and say, yeah, I'm speaking to, I'm getting a Fred or something like that. And it's an art form. You can learn how to do it. I'm a very, very big fan of Darren Brown, and I've seen him, several times in theatre and stuff. And he tells you outright how it's done. And he explains at the start, he says, just so we're clear, I am not, any point speaking to a loved one of yours. This is all a trick, so if anybody feels uncomfortable, blah, blah, blah. And he teaches you how it's done, and it's an art form going back to the dawn of human race, how to learn how to do that. I think it's very sad.
Well, is it? You see, I understand what you're saying, and it's hard to disagree with you. It does sound like they're all charlatans taking your money for nothing. They're certainly not giving you what they say they are giving you, but if it gives somebody some peace, isn't that of itself a value?
well, you know, if somebody was to say close relative of mine said my mum or something had passed away, and somebody was saying that they were talking to her and she was giving me such messages in exchange for money, I'd be sickened, you know, if I then learned, which I know.
Yes, and if somebody said that to me, I'd tell them where to go, because I don't need that kind of comforting. But others do. Others do need that sort of reassurance that those on the other side are having a better life than they had when they were alive and all the rest of it. And isn't that of itself, in a way, a comfort for some people?
Well, if they're providing that comfort, they should do it free of charge, really. If they've got such a
You've got
power,
to eat. You've got to eat. But the power doesn't. I think we both agree, Tom. The power doesn't exist. Huh?
Yeah.
I mean, you know, it's in one respect, it's a piece of entertainment. But should Tom Jones sing for nothing? He's got a golden voice. He's got a fantastic voice. He's been given that by either God, if you believe in all that, by trial and energy or whatever. Should he give it away because it's a super talent? Should he give it away? No. So if somebody can, in a way that can be displayed as entertainment,
trick people.
Well, he's tricking people. It's not unusual to be loved by anyone. Come on, it's not a con, is it? I mean, nobody's compelled to do it. You don't have to pay your 10 quid and go and sit in a 3,000-seat theatre watching Doris Stokes perform. Whether she believes what she's doing or not, I have no idea. She's dead, so it doesn't matter now. But I mentioned her because I met her. I interviewed her many years ago, and I went to see her performance at the Guildhall in Preston. And it was very, very clever. It was very, very clever.
First ever concert that was.
Was it? Well, there were thousands of people there.
First ever concert.
There were thousands of people there. They were hanging on her every word, and they were hoping that she would, in their thoughts, and possibly hers, I don't know, in their thoughts, they would speak to their relative and give them some direct comfort. And I'm not sure that's altogether entirely bad.
Yeah, well, the debate is out there. I certainly wouldn't pass my money to watch a con artist sport. The other thing I wanted to quickly talk about was the upcoming coronation of King Charles, as I say, William then. And I hate to revel in anybody's misfortune, and, you know, I certainly won't make a habit of it, but I'm slightly taking comfort and grinning to myself at the popularity demise of the Dutch and Duchess of Sussex. I believe a recent poll in America shows that their popularity has declined more so than Prince Andrew now over in the States. Because since the release of the South Park episode. And I think I'm so happy that people are starting to see the true colours, because I think that Oprah interview, it wasn't even an interview, it was a one-sided slanging match, was absolute, I wouldn't like to say the word on air, absolute testicles. I'm glad people are starting. Yeah.
Absolute testicles. We like the way round it. Go on.
I'm glad to see people have started to see the true colours, and I know King Charles will invite them, and I hope they don't show the face, because Harry, I think, because it actually lands on, is it Lilibet's birthday, the coronation. I think Meghan should stay over in the States, because I'd hate for the limelight, which it will, if they both come, to be all about them. So, yeah, I mean, it's just one story after another. Harry charging $33 2 weeks ago to watch a live stream of him with a trauma counsellor. Paid £29 you could pay to watch him for an hour. The live comments or questions were barred. That facility was removed, but I just thought for him to waffle on about another morn, and I just thought, like, people have got, people go through traumas every single day. Yeah, what happened, with Diana and everything was traumatic, but we don't need to. Yeah, we've heard your story. Get on with life, do some good in the world, and
Well, to be fair,
bad your life is.
He has done some good, hasn't he? The Invicta Games and all that have been absolutely superb, and it was he that moved mountains to get that to happen. So it's not been all bad, and he did fight for his country, which many people perceive as being good. And okay, you reckon he's gone a bit?
He put it all in his book how he was shooting the Taliban off live.
Yes, I know. But lots of former military personnel have got books out. I mean, those people, the guys, Bravo 20, every one of them's had a book out, and loads of others as well. So people do. Anyway, good on you. Good to hear from you, Tom. 0800 218 2255. How do, Frank?
Hello there.
Hello there.
Just a quick call about the BBC reception. Because normally, I only have Freeview on my television set. Are you listening, sir?
Yeah, I'm listening to you, yeah.
Yeah. And you used to be able to get on, the very rare occasion, and just put 719, and it came onto Radio Manchester. And I haven't been able to do that this evening, so I went on the internet because I have a phone that I can get it on. And is it all right to say Google?
Yeah, you said it now, but go on.
Yeah. Oh, sorry, yeah.
It's okay, don't worry.
So I asked Google, and it just said, yeah, put 719. Now, I can't even get BBC television on my television set at the moment. For what reason I don't know anyway. But when I tap 719 in, it just puts the programme on that I'm watching, i.e. Could be ITV, it could be Quest or whatever. But I just can't get BBC. But I'm paying full television licence, and they're talking about putting the licence fee up. Well, whether they are going to do, I don't know. But I wonder if you could tell me why I can't, on Freeview, get Radio Manchester on 719 when it says on Google I should be able to do.
Well, that is the number, the station number, if you like, channel number, on which it's presented. Have you tried? This may seem silly. Have you tried 720, 720?
Yeah.
To see if and what was on there.
It just went to the programme that I was watching on the television. Well, nothing.
Well, they can't do.
Why is
they
it
can't do both.
Why is it? Sorry for interrupting, but
okay.
Why is it saying 719 and you just said try 720?
Well, it was an experiment I was inviting you to engage in. 719. 719 will deliver one particular BBC local radio station, but 720 will deliver. But 720 will deliver a different one, and I was trying to get you to check whether other BBC local radio stations were available on their frequencies. But you seem to be telling me that whenever you type in another number onto your telly, you just get the same that you had before you typed it in. Is that what you're saying to me?
Yes, correct. I.e., if I'm watching whatever, say I'm watching ITV and I put 719, it just stops on ITV.
Right. Now, I'm not aware, others may well phone in and tell us, I'm not aware whether the 719 transmission has been interfered with or gone off for some reason. But that happens from time to time. These things aren't
When was the
perfect.
last time that happened? What do you mean it happens from time to time?
In answer to the last question, I mean it doesn't happen all the time, but it has occasionally happened. In answer to the first part of the question, when was the last time? I can't remember, but it does happen from time to time. If you type in other numbers, does the channel on your television change? Yes or no? Just say yes or no. Don't tell me hotels.
Yes.
So it changes. So if you type in the channel for, I don't know, Dave or something, that comes up, does it?
I don't type in Dave.
Well, the number that would
I'd
be
probably
appropriate.
put number 10 in, like, that's drama channel. Just say that, yeah.
And
So I
that
just
that
put 10
operates.
in and it comes on.
Right. And 719, which you're trying to get for BBC Radio Manchester, doesn't change. It stays.
No, that's correct.
nothing.
That's correct.
Now, what I would invite you to do is to try a different number for a BBC local radio station, which is why I said 720, and see if that produces one, because it may well be that the whole system is down, or it might just be the Manchester system is down. I don't know.
So if I type in, you say type, I don't type, I just press a number. But if I
indeed,
press-
that's
if I-
like typing, really. You type numbers,
Well,
so...
yeah, but excuse me, I haven't finished speaking. If I press number 1, normally that used to be BBC 1. If I pressed 2, it was BBC 2. 3 was ITV. When I press 1 now, nothing happens.
Right.
But I pay a full licence fee.
Well, it's not about your licence, I assure you. Have you tried... Have you tried pressing, instead of just pressing 1, press 101?
Oh, no, I haven't tried. Well, if I press 10, which I have done, it comes up with the drama channel, which is number 10, on my Freeview television receipt, you know.
Right. It is possible that your telly needs looking at. I'm not aware.
I see.
I'm not aware that the television broadcasting of local radio isn't happening. I'm not aware of that. I mean, to be frank, they wouldn't tell me anyway. But I'm not aware of it being out of operation. If anybody, this is not addressed to you, Tom, Frank. If anybody listening,
Tom.
It is Tom. My apologies. If anybody, which are you? Are you Tom or Frank?
Make your mind up.
No, I'm asking you to make yours up. Are you Tom or Frank?
My name's Frank.
Yeah, there we are. Right. So
I don't
Frank.
know who Tom is.
No, and you don't know what channel the BBC's on either. So we've got two things we don't know.
Oh, I do.
Okay. Well, Frank, I'm inviting anyone listening right now who's listening to us via their telly to tell us.
Yeah.
I'm not talking to you at the minute, Frank. To ring in and tell us on 0800 218 2255 what channel it is that you're getting the station on. And that way, Frank,
Thank you very much.
and that way we may find out if it's ceased operating or if it's just your telly's lost it for some reason.
Well,
Right?
all I'm saying, Alan, it is, in effect, where I used to be able to tap in 719 and receive it. Have you gone?
No, I'm still here.
Oh, sorry.
Okay.
I used to be able to receive it. I don't listen every 5 minutes to, your programme, but I used to put in 719 and I could hear it on the television set, but now I can't, that's all.
Right.
That's all
And I'm trying to find a reason for that.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate it. Thanks very much.
It's my pleasure. Have a good night, Frank. So if anyone does listen to us via their television rather than straightforward radio or any other processes by which you can hear us, if you do listen via your telly, are you able to do that now? Indeed, are you doing that now? In which case, give us a call, 0800 218 2255, and we may be able to get to the bottom of Frank's problem. How do Cliff?
Hi there. First of all, can you hear me clearly? Because I've got a bad phone.
Yes, for the moment.
Good. Right, good. I just want to follow up on contacting the dead.
Okay.
I have some good first-hand evidence that something exists on the other side. And I'll bring you through the story. I'll try and do it very quickly, but I'll bring you through the evidence that I do have. Yeah? First of all, my mum, about 30 years ago, was diagnosed with a tumour in her head. She had to have it removed, and they put a metal plate there where they actually done the incision. And she was told she had to take this medication every single day for the rest of her life. After a year or so, my mum's old school, she didn't want to, she stopped taking it, took it every 2 days, then every 3 days, and then totally give up taking this medicine because she didn't like medicine. For 2 or 3 years, no problems at all whatsoever. I was young at the time. I was about 20 years of age. I was going out with my mates and everything. And it was about 9 o'clock in the evening. So I was going home. And normally I open the front door. I go straight up the stairs to my bedroom, get what I'm getting, maybe money, maybe, and then back out again. 5 minutes in and out, and I'm gone with my mates. It was that sort of time. This particular day, I went home, opened the front door, ran to the top of the stairs, and before I could get to the top of the stairs, my mum was there with my dad and my younger brother. She looked like she was in a trance, my mum. Didn't look right at all. So I said to my dad, what's wrong with mum? And he says to me, it must be the medication, she's not been taking it. I knew this would happen. So anyway, she was there. She wasn't responding. She was stood up, but she wasn't responding in any way. I was saying, Mum, you all right? Nothing, just a blank face. So we decided to take her in the bedroom, put her on the bed. She sat down. I'm trying to talk to her. She's still not responding. We're calling our doctor, because our doctor was a personal friend at the time. So we called him, and he come out. He said, call an ambulance. Yeah, he can't diagnose anything, just call an ambulance. We called an ambulance, and we're waiting for the ambulance. While I was waiting for the ambulance, me, my dad, and my younger brother, my mum stood up off the bed on her own accord and started, how can I put it, jumping up and down, moving her hands up and down, and something came out of her mouth that I've never heard that frequency of a voice say before. The closest I can describe it to you is when you used to watch the cowboy and Indian films, and Indians used to make a noise with the tongue. That's the closest I can get to what came out of her mouth. But it's very difficult for a human voice to make that sound, basically. This happened for about 5 minutes. Could have been a little bit longer, but I'd say about 5 minutes happened for. A load of gibberish coming out of her mouth, gibberish and tones that I've never heard before that I didn't even know was possible from a human voice. Anyway, ambulance came, my 2 sisters arrived. They came, because we phoned them saying that, Mum's not well. My sisters came, the ambulance came. My mum calmed down then, after 5 minutes of this gibberish coming out of her mouth. She calmed down, but still in a daze. My sisters shepherded her to the ambulance, went to the ambulance, went to the hospital. I decided not to go at the time. I decided to go there early in the morning because she was in with 2 sisters, so she was in, 2 members in the hospital, that's enough. So about 7:30, 8 o'clock in the morning, I went straight to the hospital, and I was looking for the ward that Mum was in. And I see one of my sisters walking down the aisle, and she was smiling. So I thought in my mind, that's a good sign. Yeah, Mum must be all right. I said, what was wrong with Mum last night? What happened to her? What's the diagnosis? She said to me, why do you go and ask her yourself? But she said it in a very funny voice, smiling, go and ask her yourself. So I went, found the ward, see my mum on the side of the bed, Mum was smiling and everything. I said, Mum, what happened to you last night? She said, well, she told me the story. Now, can I just hold you there a second? I'll just digress a little bit. My sister has a few good friends, and every year my sister would celebrate a birthday party at her house. And her friends would come there in the morning, and they'd all cook food, make cakes and all sorts, have a laugh. And then at night time, we would all get invited to a party. Now, sadly, one of my sister's good friends committed suicide within the year. And it was very sad, Normally she'd be there that day making, food and stuff, for my sister's birthday party. So my sister's birthday party came up again. This is within the year that a person committed suicide. So this year she wasn't there making any food. Everyone else was there, but she wasn't there. And obviously the rest of them were all sad, because obviously that person would have been there having a laugh with them, and they weren't there. So they were talking about her. Anyway, they got fresh chicken, fresh curried goat, and they always cook that. They're the 2 meats that they always cook. A good pot of chicken and a good pot of curry goat, along with rice and all of the dishes and stuff. And they cooked this curry goat in the morning, and within an hour of it being cooked, it was off. When I say off, they said it was foul. and it's been rotten there for 2 weeks. The curry goat was foul. I'd never heard that before, ever. Since or before, that you cook something like that, a meat that's cooked well, and then it's rotten within an hour. I've never heard of it after or before. Anyway, they found that odd, they had to throw it away. So that day, for the first time in many years, there was no curry goat. Right. Anyway, going back to my mum now. I said, Mum, what happened when I was in the hospital with her? I said, what happened? She says, well, she said, someone came to me, which was the girl. She said, I'm sorry for coming to you. You're the only person that I could come through, that was fit for me to come through. And that woman explained everything to my mum on the other side. She said, I'm sorry, tell them all, I'm sorry for spoiling the food. I just wanted to take part. Mentioned all the things I can't even remember now, because this was like 30 years ago. And my mum said she's seen people that have died already, telling her to come over the grass, calling her over. She's seen her own mother there. A lot of relatives that had passed away, uncles and grandparents, who she don't really know, were calling her to come over the grass. She said, while we were there, asking if she's all right, she said she could see us all. See my dad, me, my younger brother, but she couldn't communicate with us because she was communicating with them. And what I worked out is, when she was communicating with them, talking to them in normal voice, it came out on this side as gibberish. Now, my mum never met this girl before, ever. Didn't even know the girl's name. Right? But then my mum mentioned the girl's name, and she said, what I just told you, that she's sorry for spoiling the food. Now, to me, that's evidence for me, because my mum never knew the girl. She knew about the food being spoiled, because she was told that the food got spoiled that day, but she had no idea why, and she never knew, my sister's friend in any way at all, never even met her. Yeah? So, what I'm asking myself is, how the hell can my mum know all this information so clearly, and it all fit in place so tidily? And this was 30 years ago. My mum's still alive. She's not took that medication now for 30 years, and never anything happened. So I wiped out the medicine thing, what my dad thought at the time, that it couldn't have been that, because 30 years now, she's not took that medication again, and my mum's fine. My mum's 85 now, and she does her own shopping, gets on the bus, walks around, right? So health-wise, my mum's good, right? And my mum told me that story there, that morning in hospital, and to me, what explanation do you have for what happened? You can't explain it, but take it as more or less a fact.
I won't even try to explain it, but in order for me to accept what you're offering of evidence of life after death, I don't have anything to measure that with.
I understand.
I wouldn't interpret I wouldn't come to the same conclusions that you've come to for examining the narrative of what you've just told me.
I can see where you're coming from, but at the same time, if you put yourself in, obviously you wasn't there, you didn't witness it. I did. The information that Mum gave, it was clear information that she could not have known in any other way. I mean, how could she have known that person spoiled that food? And what was the reason for the food spoiling in the first place? Because I never heard of it before. Asking a chef, it can't happen.
I don't know the answer to your questions, but I wouldn't come up with the same conclusion that you appear to have done. But no, it's up to you. You come up with your own answer to mysteries.
I understand. And can I just finish off as well? People get ridiculous talking about aliens and this and that. The American Congress 2 years ago, I just realised this now because I've been looking it up. The American Congress 2 years ago asked the American military to supply all the evidence of what they're doing with their money, because obviously the military gets so much money every year, NASA gets so much money every year, and I think it's measured in millions, you know what I mean, what they get funding. And there's a lot of people in Congress who want to know where this money was going to and what they're actually doing. So they went into had a big hearing, said, right, we want you to tell us exactly what you know about anything that this money is going to, with all these sightings of extraterrestrials, whatever. And it's amazing that the military have now admitted that they have evidence of aliens and things that are not from this world. That's not theirs. Not human. It's not made by man.
No, they haven't. But they do have some questions that they've been unable to answer.
Okay, if you put it that way, but more or less, Congress have asked for this information, and the information that they're giving basically is saying, yes, there's things flying in our sky that doesn't have that has technology that's 1,000 years or 10,000 years ahead of what we have. And it's nothing.
Well, first of all, my problem, Cliff, is there's no way that a scientist would say that technology that they're using is 1,000 years ahead of ours, because
you did.
Oh, you did. So you're adding words.
Sorry.
It's okay.
Well,
don't
okay,
worry.
anyways,
See,
what they were
the
saying,
problem is when
away.
if you tell me a story and then I discover that you've buffed it to suit your means, I say
no,
fine.
I said less, actually. I said less. I said 1,000. They're saying it was more. They're saying scientists are saying.
So they did.
that it's
So they
actually a
did
lot
say.
more.
So they did say it was thousands of years.
Centuries.
ahead.
They use the word centuries. Centuries. They use the word centuries away.
Right. Well,
centuries
centuries aren't thousands. So we seem to be getting mumbled up in words.
Well,
But
okay.
thank you anyway. Have a good night. I'll do Jacqueline.
Paradab. Good morning, Alan. A very quick one. Well, can I tell you about the lambs first? There's a 20-year-old shepherd, a young farmer, had a Yugo. I don't know why I said a Yugo. And her sheep gave birth to 6 healthy lambs in a very rare event. 6 lambs, can you just imagine? And they usually deliver between 1 and 3. But it doesn't say, it's in northwest Wales. I don't know whereabouts it is. But 6 healthy lambs, and they're all doing well. Anyway, let's get back to that fella who can't get his programs that he wants to. Because sometimes they move, they alter the frequencies of different channels. But if he goes on to install and retune, if he presses that, he might get the programs that he wants.
Okay.
I mean, different tellies and different remote controls and that, but install and retune, he might get the program that he wants.
Right.
Because I do that. I have to do that on a regular basis because, say, channel, I'm only on Freeview, but channel 55 is one thing, but then I have to retune it, and then it becomes channel 56. And that's all I have to do.
Yeah. Well, there we go. Need to retune it.
Okay,
Excellent. Yeah, thank you.
Good night.
Thank you. Good night. it's not 01. 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, you can. It's dead easy. You can talk about absolutely anything, as I think we've demonstrated admirably. I'll do Sam.
Alan, can we? Is it possible to make some sort of a complaint, like toward? So I've bought something online and I've had a really bad experience, and it's stressed me out so much. What can I do about it? And if it took so long for me to
Depends
get
what it
it
is. Depends what it is. Depends what you paid for it. Depends how you paid for it.
So it's one of them big companies that use a third party.
What was it? What was it?
It was a circular saw. I bought a circular saw online. So they delivered. They didn't deliver it, and then they weren't going to. And then usually on the app, when they don't deliver it, they tell you why it's not delivered, or they're going to refund you, or when they will refund you. So it wasn't delivered. I had to chase it up, and then I had to order another one. So I had to buy another one, and then the one that I originally bought, no one was going to refund it or even deliver it. So I had to chase that up for weeks and weeks, and I wasn't refunded. And recently I've been refunded, but they've been refunding it to the wrong bank account, and I've been chasing this. So the company I bought it off, they use people in the market, like a second party supplier. So the second part, I had to chase up the second party supplier. Then I had to ring the company I bought it off. They had to ring the second party supplier, and I've just been back and forward for months, and for months. And now I've been refunded. I've been refunded into a wrong bank account, and it's really, really stressing. Like, it's really stressful. And I had to buy another one.
So when you say you've been refunded, you haven't, have you? Somebody else has.
Yeah, I haven't. I still haven't been refunded, as far as I know.
So you haven't got your money back. No. And have you spoken to them and said, I haven't got the money?
Yeah, I spoke to them today after a long time.
And
They've refunded. They said they've refunded into a wrong bank account. But when I spoke to them, I was at work on my break, so I couldn't speak to them for too long. And because it stresses me out when I speak to them.
So have they agreed that they've sent the money to the wrong bank account?
Yeah. And they agree that I need to be refunded, but it's just because they use. So it's one of them companies that use other people. So you buy things from their website, but they use other people's stuff. So like what's it called?
But they have a process by which the money can be refunded to you.
Yeah, they're usually very, very good.
They've just sent it to the wrong bank account.
Well, before that there was other stuff.
Well, should we just deal with now rather than before?
Yeah, but I've been stressed all this time, so I want to I want to do something about it because it's stressing me. Every time I think about it, I get really stressed.
Well, write to the chairman of the company then and tell him or her that you're peed off and see what they say.
Yeah, but they took my money and they've not brought my wire order.
You said you wanted to complain. I've just told you how to complain.
Okay. But the chairman, he has more than 300... Oh, I don't know who the chairman is. It's a really big company and they use second-party suppliers. The people who supplied me with the jigsaw is very local. It's like a few miles away from my house, but they use the other people's website to sell it, and it's a bit like like in food companies where
I don't need an explanation of the process. I understand the process. You've bought something. It didn't arrive. They've agreed to refund you. They've sent the money to the wrong place. You've spoken to them. I presume they're now going to send the money to the correct place, and you want to complain. Complain, but complain to the people who you've been dealing with. And the only way you'll do that is by finding out who
But once I complain, I tell them how stressed all this process was and how much, I'm genuinely, really pissed off, really stressed, and what were they going to do?
I don't know. They'll probably throw a party and get a roundabout. I haven't the faintest idea what they're going to do. But rather than ask me and have me make a guess, try it and see.
Yeah, I'll do that. I will write
Excellent. Excellent. So if you want to make a complaint, make a complaint.
Mm-hmm. Do I find, I have made a complaint. They just... How do I make an official, a serious complaint to, escalate the complaint? How do I escalate it?
Well, if I have a complaint about an organisation and I'm not happy with their response, I find out, and it's easy done with the internet, I find out who the chief executive is or the chairman or whatever kind of company it is, and I write directly to that individual at their registered office.
Yeah. Can I quickly talk about something else? Something a bit more interesting. You know that when people talk about the dead or the afterlife, it's all personal experience. I mean, nothing has been proven and nothing will ever be proven. It's all what people like to believe and what they sort of like. Us humans, we experience so many different things, and they don't have to be. So some people believe it to be true, and some people just don't believe it to be true. And there's no way like that other man who said he'll come back from the other side. That's just nonsense, because it's just if you're on this side and you believe on the other side, it just doesn't work. It's just not true. But we experience things, we hear things, we think things, we believe things, but it doesn't mean they're true. It's simply not true.
All right. Well, that's reassured us all.
So if you can stay in a room, and hallucinate about a ghost, about anything, and then in your mind you will experience that thing being next to you. So I could be sat in my room, thinking of an elephant, and then the elephant will, if I close my eyes, the elephant will be there because my mind will picture the elephant, and it's dark, and the elephant will be there. So that could be a ghost. But then when you open your mouth, when you open your eyes, the elephant's not there because your mind is just playing tricks on people.
Mm.
Yeah,
Jolly good.
And they happen to believe. Yeah.
Thank you. I'll do Ethan.
Hi, hello.
Hello.
Do you remember me?
No.
Oh, what? Do you not remember me by my other name, Thick Daddy?
No.
Oh, well, I met you in the glory holes in Yorkshire.
I don't even know what they are. Good night. 0800 218 2255. Just because you're an idiot doesn't mean I have to put up with it. If you want to join us, you can. We mentioned the Guildhall in Preston. I mentioned the Guildhall in Preston just a while back, a few calls back. And Preston Council reckons, because there's been some palaver over ownership and contracts and all sorts of nonsense. It closed a couple of years ago, I think. And they're now free to get on with refurbishing the Guildhall, which is great news for the city, although it's going to take a few years to do. And I had a soft spot with it. I used to work for a radio station in Preston, and so went to the Guildhall a lot. I went to see Gladys Knight in the Pips there. The radio station was sponsoring the concert, and I went to interview her and saw Gladys Knight in the Pips. I saw all sorts of people. I even saw, but I had to pay for tickets for this, which is a very uncomfortable experience, but I even saw Bob Hope at the Guildhall in Preston. They've had some crackers on there, absolute crackers. My favourite comment about a show at the Preston Guildhall was written in the Blackpool Gazette by their music and arts correspondent, a lad called Robin Duke. Good evening, Robin, if you're tuned in, which I doubt. But it was after we were both at and doing the same thing, you know, our jobs. But we were at a Richard Clayderman. Do you remember him, the pianist? A Richard Clayderman gig. And in the paper the next day, Robin Duke wrote a fairly comprehensive report about what went on. And then he said, but all the way through it, I couldn't help thinking I was in a supermarket, because Richard Clayderman's music is very much like supermarket music, isn't it? Lift music. But he said, I kept thinking I was in a supermarket. Absolute class. Robin, that is, not Richard, who was totally and utterly boring. And I also read with theatres that the Oldham Coliseum is closing its doors for the final time after the Arts Council cut its funding, which is a dreadful shame. Greater Manchester will lose a brilliant rep theatre. I mean, it's a superb theatre. But also, the best pantomime. Honestly, their pantomime every year is so much better, in my mind, so much better than all those big, glitzy, £50,000 a year stars that they have. The pantomime at the Oldham Coliseum was legend, but it would seem it will be no more, which is very sad indeed. 0800 218 2255. How do Ray?
Well, just phone up about the police case during the week, and the policewoman has smacked the fella over there. You know, it was that Jacqueline Atkinson case. Yeah, the policeman got like 8 years, I think. That was the man, but the female, she got off. Now, what it was, she battered the fella a couple of times with a stick, and then went back and, you know, as another go. Now, when she ends up going to court, the chief of police of West Midlands, he says, but she was only on the periphery of the case, and that's why she hasn't been sacked. But the interview says no, she did it once and she came back and done it again. So that's far from being on the periphery.
Okay. Well, the case has been heard, and I believe that the court made its judgment as to what should and should not happen, and the police will have to abide by that. They will then, I mean, if it's the case I think you're talking about, I think she's going to keep her job because the police believe... Because the police believe that she wasn't... I mean, she's not been locked up, so the court seem to have held a similar view.
That, as they said, she was not. That was based on her being on the periphery of it.
Well, no, they will. The court will have heard all the evidence and made its decision.
Yeah.
And you may, and you sound like you do, you may disagree with that decision, but the court has made its decision, and they haven't decided that she was sufficiently involved that she should go to prison.
Well, at least she should at least lose a job.
Well, that depends. I mean, they should lose their jobs if they've done something that warrants losing their job. But
it's something that bad. Besides anything else, Alan, I'm wondering how safe will she be on the streets?
Well, I don't know how safe she'll be on the streets.
Yeah.
I hope she will be safe. I hope all our police officers are safe.
It seems like a bit of... it's the West Midlands and...
This has been a court case. The court has heard all the evidence and made its decision. That's what the courts are for.
I don't know about... that fella phones up before protesting about court, what's his name, Trump, getting he says harassed. I don't know where he's getting that from, but he's what they're inciting him over the attack on the Capitol Hill. The insurrection, you might have called or something. And they've got about... Because I've listened to quite a bit of it on the CNA. That's what a born life I was. And you've got to go to 140 witnesses. You all worked for them. So I think a lot of the Republicans trying to wipe their hands of them. That's where it's looking.
The story goes at the moment that the story at the moment is that Trump is going to be arrested on Tuesday next week. Whether he is or not,
Tuesday,
we shall. Whether he is or not, we'll have to wait and see.
And he's asked them to protest in the way it's the same way and also and he says while you're protesting, take America back.
Yeah, that's the kind of language he uses. Yes.
Yeah, that's not his statement. I don't know what it is.
Well, I mean, you may see it as incitement. He sees it as part of the free speech of the United States, I guess.
For it shows how far you can push the free speech, isn't it? Look at Paul Allan. There's a good example.
The trouble with free speech is everybody wants to have free speech, but they also want to control what other people say.
Yeah. Anyway, that's all for tonight, I think.
All right, good on you. Thanks, Ray. 0800 218 2255. It is a strange phenomenon when people always say, that's what free speech gets you. And they want free speech. They argue for free speech until somebody says something horrible about them. I know. And you just think, well, hang on a minute. You know, you want free speech. The price of free speech is that we should endure people saying things that we don't like. I mean, look what I do for a living, for God's sake. I'm a firm believer that we should hear the opinions of those with whom we disagree. Otherwise, what's the point of it all? We haven't got free speech at all. So it's no good if you say, well, you're free to say what you like, but not that. No, that's not free speech, that's control. It's crazy. Anyway, 0800 218 2255. If you want to join us, that's good. We're here until 1 o'clock, which is about a quarter of an hour away. The Sunday's tomorrow, of course. Big day for newspapers, Sunday. And, well, they're all as much as ever. Britain's Got Talent in crossbow stunt fury. Yeah. So I think it's somebody pretending to shoot Simon Cowell, and that's on the front of the Sun on Sunday. I don't think the outrage is because it was only pretending. I think they just think it was unacceptable. The Independent front page, great to be here. Lineker makes his return to the BBC after a week of turmoil, and Trump expects arrest over hush money payment. The former president has said he will be questioned over the deal with an ex-porn actress called Stormy Daniels. Yeah, who calls their kid Stormy? What should we call him? Oh, she's very pretty. £7 2 ounces. Yeah, what should we call her? We call her Stormy. Well, that'd be a nice name, won't it? What? There you go. It's like Randy Newman. Who calls their kid Randy? Bloody hell. Revealed Britain's betrayal of the brave Afghans in hiding who risked their lives for this country during the war, told you can come to the UK if the Taliban agree. That's nice, isn't it? Sunday People call this justice. Criminals dodge jail as the prisons are full, says the People. The Sunday Times, John Lewis eyes the biggest shake-up in its 150 years. And BBC Sharp's friend got 2 jobs at the corporation. Billy, 2 jobs. And the Sunday Mirror, Britain should be proud of Lineker, says the Sunday Mirror. Praise for Gary on his return to the BBC as Braverman visits a Rwandan migrant centre. And she seems to be telling us that people will be, illegal immigrants will be deported to Rwanda by the summer. The Sunday Telegraph front page, migrant flights to Rwanda by the summer. Bombshell dossier will clear Johnson over the parties. This is Boris, of course. And Trump predicts arrest and calls for protests. And thousands of city jobs will go amid the race to save the Swiss bank. And we all thought the Swiss banks were the very thing. Oh dear. Who's this? I don't know who it is, I don't need to know. But it's in the Star, so it must be true. Losing 7 stone turned me into a stud muffin. I don't know. I'm just reading it, all right? I have no idea. Suella, I'll send boat migrants to Rwanda by the summer, says the Mail on Sunday. We've just had that story elsewhere. The Sunday Express, first Rwanda asylum flights this summer. Grinning Gary Lineker walks back into work and a row. Oh dear. He's probably enjoying a row. The last thing he wants is peace and quiet by the look of it. But there you are. That's just some of the things you'll find in your newspapers tomorrow. Do buy one, please. We've got to keep the newspapers going, because if we don't, then the country goes to the dogs. How do, Franny?
Hello, Alan. How are you doing?
I'm awfully well, thank you.
I hope you find you well. Listen, your man you just had on before, he was worried about his daughter who was in the police force. You know, I can agree with him partially in what he was saying. But this country is really going to the dogs. Really going to the dogs. The police are using... the government is using the police as a maybe a military arm, just to push things their way. And they're controlling the narrative, including the BBC, just to push it their way, and it's always going to be that way. What's the common man going to do just to get his points across?
Well, here you are getting yours across, so that might be the answer to your question.
Well, I thank you for giving me that opportunity. And this is it. And you know what he was saying about Donald Trump? You know, billionaires have always run America. You remember the Kennedys? The our fellow was a moonshine runner. A little bit like that.
Oh, well,
but in this country, you can't get away with
John
it.
F. Kennedy's father was an ambassador to the UK.
Yeah, of course he was. But before that, in the 1920s, he was a moonshine runner.
That's
where he made his money. That's where he made his money. You want to collect up on your history, Alan?
I'm not really bothered about the history. I'm not really bothered about the history of the United States, to be honest.
No, it's only the history of the UK that we're interested in. You just want to have to look at the situation what it is today. We've got people that are living in poverty, that are working, you know, nurses, doctors, firemen, policemen, and they're all going to food banks. Sorry, they're not all going to food banks. Some of them are going to food banks. And the rest of these people that are trying to run the country are all living in this ivory tower where you haven't got a clue what's going on with anybody else in this country. And they're all saying, oh, you can do with this and you can do with that. But, you know, you can't. I just believe that it's just the wrong situation. People should react like the French, you know, pitchforks and let's storm the tower. What do you think?
Well, has it changed anything in France?
Well, it's made them be noticed. You know, the latest one thing that came into France where they tried to raise the pension age to 64 from 62. You know, I know that has made a lot of difference.
Well, it make a lot of difference to all those French people who will have to work an extra 2 years to get their pension. But the position, as far as I understand it, that position hasn't yet changed.
Well, that's from what I thought was that it already changed because what's his name, Macron, the French president. You know, they call themselves the founding seat of liberty. That's why they give the Americans the Statue of Liberty. You know, the freedom of speech and all that to everybody else. Each man has his own vote. I don't think it's working out. Really don't. And to be honest, when you talk about freedom of speech in this country, you can't get away with it. You can't. You can't speak up about anything.
You are doing.
No, I am now on your radio show. I know I am on your radio show.
Well, when you say you can't, when you say you can't at the same time as actually doing that thing that you say you can't, it doesn't really hold water, does it?
On your show. No.
You can't do in this country. You cannot do in this country what I am doing right now. What?
I know. I've just torpedoed myself. Thanks, Al.
It's my pleasure. Have a good night. 0800 218 2255. You want to join us? You can. I'll do David.
Hi, Alan. Recently you mentioned the Hale-Bopp comet. I think it was last week, the week before. I can't remember. I remember seeing it. I think it was about 1997.
Something like that, yeah.
I just couldn't comprehend the whole thing, really. As you said before about space and figures, it's my mind struggles to grasp these facts and figures. Because, I mean, this thing's... The comet was doing something like 90,000 miles an hour. And you look at it the next night and it seemed to be more or less in the same
So
place.
it's not gone anywhere, has it? Yeah, I think it took, if I remember correctly, it took about a fortnight to come into vision, as it were, and then go again. But it's a long way away.
Oh yes, well that's the thing, you know, and it's got this. It had a tail that was about 1 million miles long.
I know, it's ludicrous. And the other thing is, and I looked it up last week when we were talking about it, and I've forgotten already, but I'll look it up again. But I said that none of us will see it again. Anyone who's seen it, no one can see it twice. Because
no, that's right.
And I looked it up, and I'm sure it said it'll come again in about 4,000 years' time. That can't be right, can it? I'm not hanging about, I'm telling you. But no, I'm sure that's what it said.
That again is another...
But that's because you only see it. There we are. Orbit period. It takes. Here we are. It takes for it to orbit the sun. It takes it 2,533 years.
Yeah.
Its size. It's got a radius of 30 kilometres. That's 20 mile, give or take a foot.
Yeah.
And it's predicted next perihelion, I think that means when we can see it, is 4,380. What? and they reckon it's 4.5 billion years old.
Wow.
And it was discovered by two astronomers, one named Allan Hale and one named Thomas Bopp.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. Well, it was just a terrific sight to see.
Oh,
for the time it was around, wasn't it? And we seemed to be lucky at the time. There seemed to be a lot of clear nights where, it was very, visible without the aid of a telescope. I mean, I never had one, so I didn't look through it. With the naked eye, it looked quite spectacular, and I remember just digressing slightly, but still on about space. I can't remember the details or anything. I remember reading recently there were two lads in America trying to set up a radio sort of station or something, and they were trying to rid the equipment of this extraneous noise. And for some miles down the road were two other guys who were trying to find the waves, if you like, from the Big Bang from the beginning.
Yeah.
And they couldn't find it, but the other fellas down the road who were trying to get rid of it had it. But inadvertently,
Yeah, I mean, I mean, lots of things are found randomly, as it were. Yeah, And some people find it, they don't even know what it is.
That's right. I remember you saying once about time itself, the beginning. That's another thing I can't grasp. Infinitely going on forever, I can get with that more. But going back the other way, I can't. It just... Oh, no, I've got to stop. I can't keep thinking about that one, It's a strange concept. Yeah, it really is.
Well, Hale-Bopp will return to the inner solar system, which is where we see it, in the year 4385.
For the people around then, they're in for a treat anyway.
Aren't they fortunate? And they won't be talking about you and me like we're talking about them.
No, they certainly won't, Alan. No, that's for sure.
Good on you, mate. Have a good one. Cheers. 0800 218 2255. It was absolutely mystifying. It was just extraordinary. We just get carried away by the size of everything, don't we? It's just massive. Anyway, how do Anthony?
Good morning, Mr. Visit.
Good morning. You'll have to be quick. We're coming to the end.
Yeah, okay, right. What's your favourite newspaper?
I don't have one.
You don't have one? Oh, don't say that. So you prefer the Sun to the Manchester Guardian, or you just don't care?
I don't care, because I'm required to read a selection of them every day. Well, all of them, no, because you very quickly get weighed down spending your day reading the papers. But I read 4 or 5 a day, I suppose.
That's what Sunday mornings are for.
Indeed, so.
Yeah. Just have a look at a few. Anyway, right. I can hear I think the dulcet tones of Ringo Starr.
You can indeed.
On the way.
So have a good night.
Okay, have a good
night. How do Nicholas? Hello, Nicholas. No, Nicholas. No, I didn't say no, Nicholas. I said no, Nicholas.
BBC News at 1 o'clock. This is Charlie Jones. The three candidates vying for the leadership of the SNP have pledged to reform its operations after the resignation of its chief executive. Peter Murrell, who's married to the outgoing leader Nicola Sturgeon, said he was taking responsibility for misleading the media about how many members the party had. Lawyers for Donald Trump say the former president was merely speculating on media reports when he said he expected to be arrested on criminal charges next week. Prosecutors in New York have been investigating alleged hush money payments made on Mr. Trump's behalf to a former porn star and another woman. Dina Bass-Williams, a former Republican strategist, believes such charges would help Donald Trump's presidential bid.
I think it's actually galvanizing support for him. I don't think anyone really understands what is the legitimate reason to actually prosecute a former U.S. president for allegedly paying off his, mistress. Everything about this is unprecedented and odd.
The UN says an agreement to allow Ukraine to export grain from its Black Sea ports, which was due to expire tonight, has been extended. The statement doesn't say how long the extension will last. Switzerland's biggest bank, UBS, is reported to be in advanced talks to buy all or part of its troubled rival Credit Suisse. In recent days, shares in Credit Suisse have fallen sharply after it said it had found weakness in its financial reporting. Lana Nguyen, a finance editor at Reuters news agency, told the BBC about the challenges to any buyout.
What we understand is that the government and the parties from both companies are really trying to hammer out some of the terms here. And UBS is, I think, driving quite a hard bargain because there are lots of risks to the company. There are many employees that might need to be laid off, on top of which there's litigation risk against Credit Suisse. So there is a lot still happening. It's a fluid situation, and there's no guarantee of a deal at all right now.
Emergency warning messages will be sent by the government to people's mobile phones across the UK to test a new alert system. Phones will sound a siren noise during the trial on the 23rd of April. Simon Jones reports.
This sound, the government says, could save your life. The alert system, which becomes operational today, will allow the emergency services or government departments to send warnings directly to mobile phones. As well as a siren, there will be a text message to explain the nature of the threat and what to do about it. The warnings will be used at times of extreme weather, though they could eventually be expanded to cover terror incidents. On Sunday the 23rd of April, the system will be tested across the UK.
Rugby and Ireland have won the men's Six Nations by beating a spirited England side 29-16 in Dublin. It's the first time they've clinched the championship trophy on home soil for almost 40 years. BBC News, it's 3 past.